Okay, at this time, I'll call the fiscal year 24 budget workshop to order. This is a special Walls City Council meeting. Deal with next year's budget. I'd like to welcome everyone here. Thank you, Lauren, for coming. At this time, we'll have a short moment of silence. Okay. We'll move on down our agenda, and the next item is Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I turn it over to Brandon and administrator comments, and we get into this, I will remind everyone that while this is a workshop, it is also a city council meeting, and that the Robert's Rules of Order are still in place. And let's be as cordial as we can, even though we may have differences. If someone speaks out on an issue, as Robert's Rules of Order says, everyone else gets to speak before they speak again. So I'll remind you of that. Let's let everybody participate, which is always a good thing. Okay, Brandon, at this time I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank y'all, council, for coming out this morning and getting this started. I know this is a wee bit earlier than we have done it in the past, but I wanted to go ahead and get some initial direction from council and start getting the wheels turning. I'll be having somewhat of a watered down version of this with department heads, so we can all collectively meet. I'll meet with them individually and go over their budget requests, but I also want to pull them together as collectively and discuss a few things as well. So, apologize for being ill the other night, not making it to the meeting, but I did have a couple of updates that I wanted to bring up. The website, we've added a few features to that. Our Facebook feed is now on the home screen, so the folks that don't have Facebook, they can still see what stuff that gets posted. I think they can click on it. I don't know if they have to have an account or not to pull it up, but I do know that the initial feed is on there, so you'll be able to pull that up. Our calendar is on there now. We've added a calendar. That link is on the main page as well, and it's got all our city events, city meetings, both city council committee meetings, Board of Zoning Appeals, Planning Commission, Tree Committee, anything city related will be listed on that calendar. You can click on that and there'll be more details about that. If there's an agenda link or a web link, that'll be on there as well. So just a few updates on that. We just keep hitting a few snags. I'm trying to get our depot rental online, so you can both pay online and reserve online. We're still trying to work out some backside details with payment and just getting everything to marry up. It's been a little cumbersome because we've got to have an avenue for staff to add stuff in there that the city requests and not take a payment, and the public to do, and it's just, there's a few kinks to work out with that. While I've been out, I have been fairly busy. We submitted the erosion control permits for DHEC, for the Greenway. That occurred. Let's see here. There's a few other highlights I wanted to mention while I was out. Still working on the audit. The auditors were behind, so they're still working on that. I had a conversation with them while I was out, and they're still working on that. They needed some additional corporate data. Jason always knew that, but this new firm doesn't, so they needed a little bit additional data, and we had to get that to them. So they did receive all that and taking care of that. I'm sure most of y'all have seen in the paper, heard on the news that the legislature is looking at adding more funds to the SCIP program. So hopefully that'll help a lot of the smaller municipalities. I know I'd spoke with a journal earlier, or maybe last week, about that. So that's good news for a lot of the smaller organizations. Celia's been working, starting the groundwork on the comp plan, getting some maps and stuff together. So that's going to be a very detailed process, and we'll be working on that. A few things, this is sort of related to the budget meeting, but I wanted to go ahead and throw that out on the outset instead of somewhere buried in the middle. Over the past year and a half that I've been up here, I've been looking at a few things, and one thing that I really want us to concentrate on, and I've already directed staff, we're going to start looking at it, is our water billing. The 10th comes very quickly every month. I don't know what kind of staggered billing we would have. We're still trying to see what the effects it would have on staff, but I envision something like whenever the date that the bill is printed, there's a 20 or 25 day window to pay that bill. So we're looking at that, we're studying that, just to help alleviate some concerns. That should eliminate any problems over holidays or anything like that, and it gives a couple, depending on when they go out, it could give you an extra 2 weeks to do that. So that's something that we're looking at. We're looking to see how that would affect staff and how it does billing. So just keep that in mind. There'll be some other amendments that we'll want to make to the water ordinance. That'll be one of them. As the system grows, development grows, it's all a great thing, but there's a couple of things as it related to construction that we need to add to the ordinance that in the future will make things better. So everything, obviously we want everything done right now, but we want to make sure 15, 20 years down the road that we're not creating headaches for the folks that take over. And I think that's all I'll have right now, unless there's any questions.
Oh, I'd just like to mention, I think I sent it to all of you about the Walhalla being the third safest place to live in the state of South Carolina. I thought that was wonderful news, and that's we need to give a big thank you to the police department, but not just the police department, because the whole city staff's involved.
Yeah.
Every department contributes to that, but I think that's great.
And to mention that, one more thing I wanted to add. I wanted to embarrass Russ and Zane from the Public Works and the Water Department. In the last couple of months, we had 2 employees turn in their notice. They were going to either private places or other government entities, obviously for more money or what have you, whatever reason. Well, about a week after they turned in their notices, they came back and rescinded those notices. So they enjoy working at Walhalla. They like their leadership that they have in the department. So that says a lot for Zane and Russ. I just wanted to give them a shout out that we was able to retain, city workers, but very good individuals that do care about the city. So I did want to mention that.
That's great.
right on in?
It's,
Okay.
you got the ball.
Okay. This meeting is there'll be some formality to it later on, but right now there'll be a little bit of informality to it. I don't intend to discuss a bunch of numbers, do that. What I really want is direction from council on how you would like the budget constructed, what goals and objectives you want to obtain this next fiscal year. So there's 3 exercises. It'll require collaboration amongst yourselves. There'll be a series of questions, and I've got handouts for all of those. And I just appreciate the opportunity to do this once again. Flipping over it's page 7 in my packet. It should be page 7. It starts with the City of Walhalla budget guidance. It's got the city logo. It's got the cover sheet on it. It's a document. This is kind of our working document that I submit to department heads to give them guidance and when they're compiling their budget. It's much like the same format that I did last year, but there's 3 bullet points.
Is that what you're?
Yes, it's several pages before that.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's the document. It starts with the cover page and ends with the Gantt chart, the calendar of the meetings. So
Okay.
You gave us this same thing about a month or so ago.
I probably did, yes, sir. I couldn't remember. Providing outstanding service, reinvesting in facilities and public safety. Those were 3 things that are generally what government looks at. That's kind of how we steered our budget process last year. But just keep those 3 bullet points in mind, if you will. I did ask department heads to limit their ongoing requests, i.e. recurring expenses. We'll try to meet those. But as you know, this past fiscal year, we obviously did the 8%. I will, looking at another number as well this year, not quite 8%, but we are looking at another cost of living increase. That goes by each fund. I anticipate the programs and the funds operating much the same this year as it did last year, but again, that'll be, if y'all have any direction on that, obviously, we'll take your input on that. The thing that we do have that we haven't had in the past is the capital improvement fund, so there's some money set aside for capital improvement, so we'll just remember that during the wheel turning and thinking about things. One thing that I did introduce last year and didn't implement it, or this current fiscal year didn't implement it, was shared expenses. Really keeping close to our debt coverage ratio is very important. So if it comes a time that water works for other departments or stuff, we might have to charge those departments for working. It's an accounting nightmare, especially on the payroll end. But that's an option that we have. Not saying we have to do it right now. We're not in that position, but that is an option. We have to make sure that we keep those expenses, the O&M expenses, as low as we can in utilities as far in respect to the debt coverage. I'll leave that. Y'all can read that at leisure. There's another document that I added. It's a PowerPoint slide. I'm not going to go through it. Just ask that y'all read it on your own. There's some good information. And we're going to do some goal setting here today. It's not going to really be long-term strategic. It's more geared short-term for the budget. But in the future, I do want to do a strategic planning and goal setting workshop. It might take a meeting or 2 to accomplish, and obviously would have an outside facilitator. But just read these slides. I think Jeff Shacker with the Municipal Association did a very good job laying out the process, things to consider, things of that nature. So that's a couple of slides in there for y'all to read. So before we start getting into the meat of it, a couple of final things. When you're considering goals and objectives, we've used this in incident management planning, incident command for years. It's called creating SMART objectives. Each of the letters is SMART's an acronym, also a word, but each of the letters means something. So in incident planning, business planning, really anything now, this is very adaptable. Try to create SMART objectives, meaning that they're specific, they indicate exactly what you want, they're measurable, there's a means for you to measure progress, you have benchmarks, you have check-in periods. Make sure that they're achievable. We all have lofty dreams and goals, but we need, you gotta make sure that with the resources that you've got, your objectives are achievable. Make sure they're relevant. Make sure that they're pertinent to the situation at hand. There's multiple ways to do stuff, but just make sure that what you want to do is relevant to the situation, and that you set a time limit on it. There's a lot of open-ended goals out there. There's a lot of open-ended plans, but it's helpful. It helps staff and it helps everyone know that you've put a time frame on it. That in 5 months you want this, and 24 months you want this. So those are just a couple of things to consider. The next couple of pages goes into a little bit detail about what each letter means. So this next period, the sheets are in your packet, but I made some sheets here so you'll have a copy. This is our first exercise, so start getting your thinking cap on. This is thinking right on. We'll compile these at the end and discuss them, and this will be the part where I'll ask for y'all's votes and things of that nature to solidify. And we'll just take a few minutes just to privately, quietly, you can answer these honestly. This first exercise is to establish long-term strategic goals, not too far in the future, but things within the next couple of years, the remainder of your term, et cetera, that you would like to see us, that the city go for. The first one is list 3 things that need the most care and attention over the next 1 to 5 years in your council committee. So the committees that you serve on, I ask that you focus on those and those first things. And there'll be multiple things by department, by committee, because you're all on, you're scattered out amongst committees. But be thinking about, in this first question, be thinking about those committees. And just, put down the first thing that come to mind. I know y'all been thinking about things and have priorities, and we'll get deeper into those as we go along. But list those.
You want to list, like, in me, like utility for that, police
Correct.
for that? Okay.
Correct. So 3 things that you think, need the most thing. Number 2, setting aside any budget problems. We live in a perfectly financed world. One thing that you would like to see done over the next 5 years that we're presently not doing. So this is a little bit of a look ahead. So ask that. And then as council person collectively, looking maybe stuff that's not on your committee, but just as a council person collectively, what are 3 things citywide that needs the most attention over the next 5 years? Yes.
question. How do you envision the process? Will we be open communication? Will we share our thoughts? Do you, like, I just want to know how. For this,
For this,
the exercise.
yeah, it'll be open.
Open communication,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You're not running me to read this check and scratch.
I don't need
I
to
think-
read it.
no, I think
You're
it's
gonna
great.
read it.
Oh, I know it. Gosh, I made another copy for me, cause I thought that was going to you.
I think you're gonna convert them in the
Yeah.
PC, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's trying to capture our thoughts on that.
I've known it was gonna be so thoughtful that I'd have went to bed earlier last night.
It's Friday, I know.
I wasn't up late, but
Yeah.
Took you smart, Bill.
yeah, I would have.
That's one thing I need to bring some Smarties. Do you remember in school,
Oh, yeah.
testing, they gave us some exercise and candy for that.
Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. We'll go through this. We'll just go around the room, starting at the left, and I'll jot down this stuff. If things have been already mentioned, just note that, and we'll note that that's duplicate goals and stuff. I imagine a lot of it will be different. So we'll go through with question 1 first on this first exercise, and starting with Councilman Jordan. If you'll just throw out 3 things that come to your mind.
You would do each committee or just like Public Works?
Well, just just the committees that you're on.
Okay.
The 3 things, just
All right, so
broad.
thinking about Public Works, I know we've had issues keeping and getting CDL staff. So that's number 1 thing that came to mind. I know that would help a lot with the department if we could get that. Also, better communication with the public about services, because, sometimes people just don't know, and they always ask, like, what's going on with this day and that day, and when is the debris gonna be picked up, when are the leaves supposed to be picked up? Something, maybe on the website, or some sort of communication that's easy to find about the schedule. And I don't know, some of these I will say, some of this may already exist, I just don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm just my thoughts.
Yep.
And then I do think that expanding or doing some upgrades or cleanup of the workshop, where they're at, over the next, 5 years, I don't think that's a short-term realistic thing, but, I think they're a little cramped maybe. It might help with some things, clean it up. So, that's all I have for that. I have other 2 committees too, if you want me to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so fire department, definitely securing more funds from the county, sort of I don't know if that's really our goal, but it's really the most important thing. And then following that, making sure all the equipment that they need is in their possession, right? Not share with the county, shore up that situation. And then more public engagement, I think they do a good job. But I think the Walhalla Fire Department is probably the premier one in the county, and people need to see that. And I think that'll help morale too, just get more involved with the public and keep on the forward momentum there. And utilities, I think the number 1 thing in my mind is finishing the installation of those new meters. Obviously, that's gonna be key to secure more efficient revenue going forward and cut down on busy work for them, so that's gonna be a cost-effective thing. Making sure we have all the redundancy that we need in the system, the plant, and everything else. I've heard that come up a few times. And then obviously operators, whatever we can do to get fully staffed on that front. See those three things, so. That's all I got.
So it'd be fair to say recruit operators.
Right, whatever we can do.
Okay. Mr. Pace.
I kept mine simple.
Okay,
It's, I put down the primary.
okay,
That's my main focus, as far as government and finance. Is the operations of government is very satisfactory. Finance side of it, I've been talking about this for probably a year and a half or so, is setting up a retirement employee, incentive. I've discussed that a couple of times privately with some of the staff, and I think that goes a long way in recruiting city employees. As a invested employee, they have some assistance when they retire as far as some of their medical benefits. That hinders a lot of retirement these days is medical insurance. All right, the street department, my main focus up there is getting a fully operated motor pool. Our other departments spend a lot of money on maintenance and operations and services that could be resolved right there in-house and save everybody, save a lot of money on the budget all the way around. If we had that motor pool as an operating motor pool, full service, fuel stations, a couple of staff in the garage side of it, and it's set up to operate and run our fleet. And, there again on accounting, it puts a little bit more on the accounting side, but, all the money just rolls on paper from one department to the other. I think that would benefit us hugely. If you look at a couple of the departments, halfway through the physical year, they already exceeded their maintenance, tires and oil and that kind of stuff, because they're buying it outside. And on the utility side, I think my main focus on the utility is a more outreach for employment. We can pick better avenues for advertisement other than just local. I know a lot of people don't relocate for a meter reader, but they may relocate for a plant operator, or sewer line operators and stuff like that. So bigger coverage on recruitment. That's it.
Mr. Woodward.
Well, my main thing for the, for like the rec department, of course, is, new basketball courts that we've got, and we've talked about it, and we're in the process of that's where we gotta go now. Upgrade facilities that we have until we can get something new. Increase the manpower, so we can have, it'd be a lot easier, I know it's more costly, but if you've got more people and John delegates it out, they can get a lot more things done a lot quicker, instead of just everybody's here and everybody's here kind of thing. Let's see, and for that part, the biggest thing is either new, with no budget problems, would just be, the basketball facility, baseball complex, soccer complex, whatever those kind of things, to do. Citywide things, I think new facilities, again, for the fire, police department, we gotta have that. The infrastructure, so it's got to be continually worked on. And upgrade and, equipment pay scales, kind of for all departments, just keep up with, maybe pass the others some way or another, the other towns or cities. Administration part, I think, and I think this can be in pretty much every one of them. Communication with the city, with the
townspeople, you know, more in the paper, more in the websites?
I'm gonna interrupt. We're just doing the first question.
Oh, the first one? Well, then I'll stop. Okay. That's good then.
I mean, guys, you got your thinking hat on, you done the whole thing.
I was going.
I wasn't gonna stop you, I was just writing
Oh,
it out,
no,
so we'll
that's
have it later,
That's
so.
fine.
Make me feel bad, Coach.
Okay, well, you know, why I get going? So, all right.
That's right.
Me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll start with fire. We just need to keep up our equipment, keep things updated. I think manpower, from what the fire chief and you have shared with us, I think we're in pretty good shape there. There may need to be some adjustments. I agree with Tyler, we probably got the best fire department. If we don't have the best around, we've got the best by far we ever had. So, and that's because we've spent more time and effort there. It's not a reflection on anybody that's worked there in the past. Utilities, we just need to continue to repair, replace, improve our water and sewer service. The guys are doing a good job. We're getting the new meters put in. We need to continue to buy those new meters. We've got the money to do this new water line. We need to get that, get that finished. We've applied for a grant, hopefully, that we can work on sewer lines. So, we've got more work there planned than, I don't know how quick we can do it, but, we got a lot in the works there. The street department, I talked to Russ this week when we get, this new vehicle that we were going to discuss last week and tabled, and the one that's on order. He indicated to me that his equipment is gonna be in pretty much where he needs it to be. Yeah, we do need to look at, trying to get CDL drivers. The good thing about that new truck is you won't have to be a CDL driver. But, the police, here again, I think, we wanna be fully staffed. We're doing a lot better job with that. We've raised the pay. One thing I would like to see done, I would like to see a way figured out that the police department office could be open till 5 o'clock. It makes it a little bit difficult for, if somebody that's working needs to get by there, it makes it a little hard to get there, if it's not open till 5. Rec, little different take on that. I do think we need a 2-court gym, and as Coach said, we're trying to figure out a way long-term to do that. I think we need to reestablish the rec advisory board. We used to have one, we do not now. I think if we did, that might help alleviate some of the problems that we've had. I don't know, but I think it's worth looking into. I think we need, I'm not saying that we don't need as many full-timers as we do. I don't know how much staff we need, but I think we need probably some part-time people to handle volleyball and some of these other sports that we've talked about in the last few weeks. I would like to see some part-time, maybe some lessons in things like pickleball, tennis, other sports for adults. I would like to see us, now that Chicopee is almost ready to go, I'd like to see us see if there's any interest in reestablishing church softball in Walhalla. I think there would be. That would, again, that would be an adult sport. It could be a good thing, and it could be, sometimes it's co-ed, men and women, sometimes women leagues, men leagues, whatever people want. I'd just like to see that. Let's see, street department. Our routes, they're very confusing. I would bet nobody in this room, except for their house, has any idea what days trash is picked up where. It's a little bit haphazard, and if somebody asks you that question, you can't answer it. So it's just better communication about when things are picked up, when they're not. That has improved, there's no question, but I think there's still some room for improvement there. And I'm on pretty much all the committees, so I'm jumping all over here. General government, community development, I kind of put those together. I would love to see us get this property up here on College and Main developed. I know we're working on that, but that could be huge for Walhalla if we had some additional storefronts, if we could get, I know we've talked about a developer that would put in storefronts with apartments, condominiums upstairs. That would be huge. That everywhere that is done in towns that works, it generates business for all our stores, our restaurants, and people like living downtown. I would also like for us to, and we have talked about this, and we are doing a better job of working with builders and developers. And I'm not talking about on a huge scale, but a small scale. Let's keep the communication lines open, maybe do a little better job to try to get workforce housing built in Walhalla. Doesn't all have to be workforce housing, but I think we need houses that people can afford to live here. I'm not talking about going out and trying to annex a bunch of property in. I'm talking about building from within, because it adds income to our water department, it adds income to our street department. Our businesses will do better, not to mention they're gonna be paying property taxes on houses, automobiles, spending their money here. That's pretty much all I got.
Mr. King?
Just number one.
Yes.
All right, I wrote the same thing down, so you can just put it down: utility, police, admin, general government. Number one, employee compensation. Number two, fully staffed. Number three, well-equipped. So I see all three of those. As far as community development, I'd like to see a shift from curb appeal to useful. And I agree with the mayor in this. Affordable housing being, what I mean is useful.
Okay.
Okay, I'll start with fire department. And I think we're on the right track, but just want to make sure that as the growth is happening in our city and just statewide, we want to continue having the supporting staff, so maintaining that and making sure that we're in alignment as we're growing. Ensuring that our equipment, gears, and all of that is up to date, and also thinking strategically, just making sure that they're in line when we need to start purchasing long term. And then as well, under fire department, continue to supporting our firefighters and their physical and mental health, and also in their physical health. So along the lines of that, I think that would clearly show the support for their staff and that, so I wanna make sure that that's brought up. For community development, I do agree, I mean, this is 1 and 2, so making a priority that we're keeping up to date about the comprehensive plan. I know that's a long term and that's a process, but because it is required by law, we wanna make sure that we are in compliance for that. So, but for the next year, along the lines with the comprehensive plan, I think we need to look at the development land. So do that inventory of our own land asset, looking at the development down on College Street, like the mayor said, opportunities to grow, whether it be on land on Main Street or land inside our city to get some housing as well. I would say workforce is a good word, but I will also say affordable and dignified homes for working class citizens. And continue maintaining and supporting our economic tool that we have right now in our system, which is the Main Street program. So I still consider that as a asset, and I think it's been beneficial in different ways that our community has seen. And Park and Rec, I agree with my colleague stating about staffing. You know, as we're growing, we need to ensure that we can keep up with the growth as well, so we can have those options, sports options available for the family. So ensuring our staff is good there. Exploring more options of sports, but that goes along the lines of ensuring our staff, again, is a priority. And then I do agree reestablishing the rec advisory board. It's a good idea to look into, to get that conversation started. And I think I'm with Public Works with Tyler, so I'll just state staff would be important to ensure that we can have that maintained. Like the mayor stated, Public Works and water are both revenue opportunities and customer service. So I think we need to strengthening the communication system under Public Works with the technology that we have now and just traditional ways to communicate, whether it be in paper format. I think there is a communication system that we can do better. And also looking at Public Works land, but the building maintenance. So kind of figuring out what that looks like so it could be a more pleasant place for the workers, but also just looking at what could be changed, what can we maximize on our resources within. So I would like to look into that building maintenance or redesigning for Public Works. And I think that's all.
Okay.
We'll start with Mr. Jordan for number 2.
This is in a perfect world, right?
Correct.
Okay, in a perfect world, I'd love to see Walhalla become the unquestionably the best rec department in the county. And whatever that looks like, new facilities, different expanded opportunities, 'cause I think that promotes good community and also is pretty profitable as well. You know, look at people have to go to Westminster to go play volleyball, right? And people come to these tournaments and they spend money and also is good for our citizens who live here. I love that you mentioned adult rec, because that's overlooked a lot, because we don't have the resources right now, but if it were an ideal world, that'd be really good. So, touch on what all of you guys said is a pie in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mr. Woodward, I took notes that you stated a new basketball and soccer facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And, you know, and with the parks and recreation, you know, I think, you know, we've got the little parks. I think we need to improve on our parks and playgrounds with that, you know. More like the one we have at Satoma that sets Dysel playground.
Yeah.
There needs to be like benches though for the parents to sit or somewhere when the kids are playing, and maybe another park, you know, elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Cause you got little kids, the parents wanna get them out for a while, let 'em run around, so.
Mr. Pace.
My one thing would be inside the city limits of full infrastructure replacement. And then go back and repave all the streets that you dig up. But the main thing is all our water and sewer lines to be adequate and brand new for another 50 years. There's only so much that can flow down a pipe, and we're growing at a substantial rate. One of these days they're already filling up.
Mayor.
Well, I've already mentioned the gym with 2 basketball courts. Where all rec sports like basketball, volleyball, whatever we had there could be in one location. That would make it so much easier on our staff and the parents. Some of you mentioned adding to the playground equipment. I would love to see us add some equipment at the park up next to the city pool. And water and sewer line improvements and repairs inside the city does need to happen. We've got a lot of things available once we can get the this water line that we have scheduled to be ran out Highway 11. In the past, we have applied for CDBG grants and replaced water lines on the Mill Hill. There's more lines over there that need to be replaced. There's sewer lines over there that need to be replaced. And we're talking about some of those lines are almost 100 years old. But there are grants available to help us with that, and would cost us, other than the managing the effort, which is a lot of work. There are CBDG grants through Appalachian Council of Governments we can get for those. But we do have a lot of water and sewer lines to be repaired.
Can I make one little statement?
Sure.
On that comment? There's streets in town that doesn't have either one of those. There's actually streets that has vacant lots on them that has no water or sewer lines running down them.
Inside our city limits?
Yeah. Right down by my house is one of them. Yeah.
Mr. King.
Okay, mine's more ideological. It's gonna fall in with Keith's. I can't set aside the budget problem thing on there. I think currently we have a mindset that mixes our needs and our wants together. And I want to put fully our needs first and foremost, and when all our needs are met, then we start working on our wants. That's what I want to see change.
Okay.
I think we need to see more opportunity for investing in our local elected officials and training when it comes to supporting them in resources or information about governance and government. So I want to see that in the essence, so that way the city council can also be seen as a team. So I would like to see that it's happening in certain different ways and different times, but I do like to see that investment, whether it be time or even now what we're doing, because this is fairly new and this is my 4th year.
Yep.
So I really appreciate even the last year and a half with your administration. So thank you. City council as a team. Yes, it's pretty accurate.
we'll move on to be a little bit more, just broadly. Y'all have been, a lot of good information here, but we'll just go back and you can pull out some of those things that you would like to see citywide. So again, we'll start with Mr. Jordan.
Number one thing has to be growing our revenue streams citywide. You know, all the growth that's coming in, we need to capitalize on that and make sure that the revenue gets stronger and stronger, because I know it's not the best, you know, it's getting better. But with that, number two, limiting recurring expenses and debt. Other than, I would agree with you guys, we've got to invest primarily in infrastructure. So as we're growing our revenue, we need to limit the things that's recurring debt, other than capital improvement and infrastructure improvement, making essential services better and more readily available. On that, steadily increase employee compensation and other benefits due to the sheer volume of services that's being demanded. We have to make sure that all that can be met. And I know sometimes employees probably want to hit their head against the wall, and it's not easy, and I know they don't do it for the money, but as over the next 5 years, we've got to try to keep pace any way that we can to make sure that we can meet all that demand. So that's my 3 things.
Okay.
Very good. I'm mainly focusing on something downtown, working more with the Oconee County and maybe Mark at the Performing Arts Center to hold more Main Street block parties, brings more folks in town on the weekend and interacts with the public, keeps the stores open, that sort of thing. Number two, no surprise, city restrooms. And number three, eventually, as we develop some of the Main Street properties, I'd like to see the depot property expand into a full city park.
I've rambled through this one before, but anyway, upgrade of equipment and pay scales and benefits for all departments in the city. Infrastructure, you mentioned that, and then new facilities for rec, police department, and then I added to restrooms somewhere uptown. We've got to get, a little better facilities for the people.
Okay.
It's pretty much already been mentioned, but just to touch back on it, Tyler, I'm with you. The secret to doing all these things we've discussed is revenue streams. And how do you get revenue streams? It doesn't matter what you want to spend the money on. If you allow our businesses to grow, that creates money. If you help the developers build housing here, that increases revenue. There's so many things we can do. Yeah, we want to give employees raises. We need to. I don't have a problem with that. But you can't unbalance your budget. You can only spend what you have in revenue. So it's a balance. But sometimes just by being creative and opportunistic, we can work with these people to create revenue for our city through business license fees, hospitality tax, and of course taxes. On water and sewer, I hope that there'll be no increase. We do not need to increase those rates this year. I'll be against that. Restrooms, we do need restrooms downtown, but we just have to continue doing what we've been doing to improve our revenue.
King.
Employee compensation, infrastructure, and housing. And, Joe Borgstrom mentioned number one way to get money in is residential housing. We put apartment buildings in, we put duplexes in, we put in, tight communities. That's the number one way to make money for this town.
Ms. Melendez.
I'm gonna read the question again because now rereading it, I have two categories I need to put them in. So as a council person, what three things citywide need the most attention over the next 5 years? That's assuming that we're gonna be in this position for the next 5 years, assuming that the reelection happens, other members can get to stay and continue that. So I like this because it provides an opportunity for the new members that come in to read. I'm sure this would be an ongoing running
Oh,
document
Oh, yeah.
to share what previous council did, so that way we pass the baton,
Yep.
right? So we're thinking the next 5 years. I'll give you the ones that I thought even with the next year, but along the next 5 years, ensuring our infrastructure citywide is updated and supported. I think several of my colleagues mentioned this, so I'm just repeating and echoing. Inventory or increase our park and recreation options, including our sports. Obviously, that was mentioned by Mr. Jordan, which I appreciate. Like, I think you were in active sports too in the rec, right? Your dad was, so. The third one was keeping up with communication from the citizen to the city and from the city to the citizen. So obviously, I see that as citywide because we have many departments that are part of that. And just to wrap that up for the next 5 years, I said, just like Mayor, you mentioned, we are one of the safest cities. Well, with the next 5 years, I would like to see not only us to be the safest city, but the healthiest, the affordable. Affordable can be subjective. What I mean by that is just being able to afford to live in the city where you were raised. So being that affordable. Having the best education. I'm a product of of the school district, Oconee County education. In the next 5 years, also having workforce development to live here, to work here, essentially some of them to retire here. So, and then also just lastly, just continue having and upholding us accountable in the next 5 years, citywide. Moving forward, whoever the next leadership is on this team, I think accountability is going to be important. So.
Okay. Okay. We've got all that flushed out. We'll go into just a little bit deeper. Most of y'all have already covered most of this, but we're gonna take a look at each department. I said most of y'all covered that in your initial comments, but I didn't restrict this to a number. I just said list your main priorities for each department. Just, keep in mind, kind of the budget numbers that we had. I think there was a lot of great comments here. We could probably talk all day about going through what we're trying to do for each one of them. But remember with these priorities, just remember those the acronym SMART. When you're putting those, these will actually be for the fiscal year. So think short term, think budget year, when you go through each department and come up with those. I'm not gonna tell you to put one or put 10, but try to limit those again. Just keeping in mind that this is for a budget year, our current staffing model, our current workload that we have. So I'll give y'all, I think, let's take, it's 10:13, probably take about 15 minutes or so so about 10:30 we'll get back together and discuss all this. This will take a little bit longer.
So I can make sure I'm understanding you correctly. This one is just simply, it is the budget fiscal year, right? The one
Cor-
that's coming up in June, July?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. Just list those things for the department that you would like to see accomplished in that upcoming,
In this next
Phys-
year,
in this
fiscal year.
upcoming fiscal year. And in doing that, like I prefaced it with, just make sure, you keep in mind, our existing budget.
Budget.
There might be some opportunities for growth, but just, try to keep those goals, within our existing budget, within those constraints, but looking forward to the next fiscal year.
So for example, in my fire department, I
Mhm.
could say I wanna increase the health supplies,
Okay.
line
Yeah.
item.
Yeah.
If you're referring to budget,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And because I don't have all that with me, would it be helpful just to state whatever, cause I don't know the line items from each department, but like, for example, in Park and Rec, if we wanted to like increase, grant opportunities
Mhm.
for playground
Yeah.
exploration,
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, those statements, and like I said, if you've got a specific project, product, anything like that, you can just state that, and we'll take those and put those in the appropriate line items, so.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Mr. Burton, will you be doing like these type of workshops with each department head?
No, I'll probably do it collectively with the
Okay.
departments, but after everyone turns in their budget, I will meet with the department heads individually
Oh, okay,
and kind of go over, well, at the conclusion of this, we'll compile everything into one concise.
like a database.
A concise thing,
Yeah.
and we'll take those and I'll distribute those to department heads, so that can help guide their,
Gotcha.
Oh, so are you taking this one with you?
No,
Oh, okay.
I'm writing
These are-
everything
yeah.
down.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'll be writing everything down, but I'll just take it.
Yeah, cause we can take these and say, oh, I remember stating this or
Yes.
whatever and whatnot, okay.
Yes.
On this one, would it be the same format that we had before, or because we were talking about committees, can the committee members and other members chime in? So that, you know, like if my colleague says this and that, and I say, well, that's exactly, I'm in alignment,
Yeah.
would that be helpful?
Yeah,
Or how
yeah.
did you envision that?
Yeah, we'll just go back around and you just, you know, state everything, and if, you know, y'all agree on something, you know, I'll still write that down, but
Yeah.
we'll know that it's
Okay.
agreed upon, so, yep,
Okay.
same format, yep.
Okay.
do we need a few more minutes, or we good?
Thought Brandon would have food and stuff for us this morning.
If I hadn't been laid up all week, probably would, but you had a luck today.
For your secretary.
Yeah. Yeah, about that.
Snacks. That's a
Okay.
teacher thing.
Yeah. I think we'll probably just go through each person, and we'll go through each department by each individual, and then, that way we're not doing each department and then just continue the circle, so, Mr. Jordan.
So administration, question for you, are you still trying to fill a position, a tech position? Is
Yes.
that still in the bunch? Okay.
Yes, we still have an open engineering tech position,
Okay,
yes.
so basically ways to help you be more, streamline, help people out or lessen your workload. I know you deal with a bunch of different jobs right now. So that was what my question was about that position, try to
Okay.
fill that, help you, should be, backlog,
Okay.
help you out. Stump House, that fall under you guys too? Stump House Tunnel, like the park,
Yeah.
find ways to keep building on, capitalizing that revenue as much as possible. I know we looked last year at the sell option, didn't really work out, but I know we're probably missing some revenue there, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that popped in my head, keep working on that.
It's gotten better, and,
Yes.
I don't wanna interject too much,
No,
but
go ahead.
with, Joanna, she's collecting it more during the day, so
Good.
there's more of a presence up there, but
That's kinda what I had in mind.
Yeah.
I remember you mentioned that, so.
Yep.
Community development, I do think a land survey of what the city owns and what's in this, what's potential to be developed inside the city limits around the city would be worthwhile endeavor. Advertising all of Walhalla, we talked about that before, we're kind of expanding what we do, be more inclusive, I guess, on, or the way, it's a perception. Advertising everything, including like the bike trail, I wanna see that.
okay, so just not advertising services, but just advertising everything that Walhalla has to offer, just.
The community
okay.
development stuff, like Main
Okay.
Street,
Yeah.
expand
Just
that.
doing marketing.
More inclusive, broader marketing.
Okay,
And Keith had talked about working with the county, and I think that'd be a good way to share costs with the county, since we're the county seat. Anyway.
Well, their office is on Main Street now.
Right, so I think that needs to be
okay,
hammered down. I will say preface to cost of living adjustment for every department. If we can do that, or whatever we can do, that's my number one thing I wrote down for everybody. So for police, that's really all I had, other than keep up the good work, 'cause I know they've made strides with the new chief, and, seem to be really heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
Public Works, again, cost of living, but publishing the routes and it's somewhere centralized, like, for each service that they provide. I'd love to see that if we can this year. Fire department, just keep hammering the point with the county that our call volumes are skyrocketing. We need additional funding since we service so much of the county. I know that's coming up this budget year, right?
yes, sir.
Okay, so that's the number one thing there. Recreation, I would say, if possible, start looking at a plan for the future of the growth and what kind of grants and feasibility, sorry.
I can't spell.
I guess just, and I know that we're looking into the future, but just, if we could start doing that and
Okay.
where we could feasibly expand.
Okay.
Court, I know emptying the backlogs, now that we got our judge in there.
Yeah.
So that's a priority. And on utilities, again, cost of living for all of these people. I could piggyback on what you said. Like, I've had some people complain to me about the billing, like they get the bill, but it's already late by the time they
Yeah.
get it in the mail. I had some people tell me that, and so you're already doing that,
Yeah.
so I think that's the only thing I can think of there. Are we fully staffed at the billing office?
We've got one opening, I think he may have already filled that one, I'm not sure,
Okay.
so.
And then, of course, I don't really have a comment for water crew, but water plant, recruit people and sure we have any redundancy that we haven't met. Overall, and then sewer, and I was thinking about rates. You know, my main priority here would be, I don't wanna see any rate increases either, like we've already talked about. But I was gonna ask you, cause I haven't heard in a while about the sewer authority, are they gonna be expecting increases on their services to be passed on to us? And how are we gonna deal with that? That's open-ended.
I'll address two things. As far as the rates this year, I don't anticipate, and I'm not planning a utility rate increase. In saying that, there may be another restructure in the sewer because that's coming from the way the joint regional receives their revenue. Now, we collect all the money and they send us a bill. It's on us to figure out how much that we've got to collect to pay to pay the sewer bill so the sewer authority can operate. So what we're looking at is actually billing off the meters. We've given our historical data to the sewer authority so they can come up with a base rate, they can come up with a per 1,000 gallon rate. They will set the rate, the board will approve it, and then that way the cities will still collect the money, but we'll turn it over to joint regional, and that takes us out of having to make sure we cover their having any unexpected rate increases like that and having for us to adjust it. If they do it, it's automatically included in ours. Now, we'll still have to tack on some fee structure for sewer just to cover our employees and our internal operations. But there may be a increase in that, but I don't know yet. We haven't fleshed out those numbers, you know,
You really
literally.
won't know until they get into their budget either.
Until they get, and I know we're already starting it on the F&A committee. The O&P committee, they took a great stab at it. They got us in the right direction. So I think we'll see more on that.
I mean, open up the whole can of worms. I just
No.
have my question mark there, you
Yeah.
know, that, so just anything we could do to avoid any kind of rate increase
Yeah.
would be my
Yeah.
idea for priority on utilities. So
Okay.
that's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Pace.
On administration, continue to delegate to each department with guidance and fluid operations of the city. I would like to see pay raises based more on performance with a lower cost of living raise. I'm not saying no cost of living raise, but, you know, a minimum to cover some inflation, but, you know, I like to see performance-based raises. You know, at the state level, all your raises is based on that. Community development, work toward ordinance enforcement. I'd like to see that department outreach with developers to fill our highway commercial properties with, you know, industries and residential housing development. I think that department can work toward both of those. And I know Brandon's worked hard on that property down there at Zaxby's, but, you know, it'd be nice to see us get, you know, out-of-state developers interested in Walhalla to come and develop on projects that locals can't afford.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Police, I mean, what can you say? I mean, they're top-notch. I think our police department is probably one of the best in the state. Only thing I'd like to see personally is like quarterly maintenance reports on their vehicles and equipment. And when I say equipment, it's like their personal protection equipment, tasers, weapons, vests, make sure everything's up to performance levels, but mainly their vehicles. These cars need to last us 8 or 10 years, and it'd just be nice to see a routine maintenance report. Public Works, only one thing I got to say about up there is I'd like to see them work more on having a cleaner work area and a public representation. And my next statement will increase that dramatically is a stockpile of all their unused equipment and sell it.
Mhm.
Half that lot up there is stuff that's been sitting still for 10 years or more.
It's tagged, it's just, your administrator's gotta find some time to get it posted.
I understand.
So we've identified probably close to 40 pieces of equipment citywide to divest, so it's,
Full cash flow.
There's some,
hopefully
you know,
we'll
and,
get-
and
we'll
I'm
get
not,
that
I'm
done.
not putting down on it. It is probably one of our dirtiest departments. They deal in garbage. But, you know, there's property behind there that's for sale that will never be sold because that's the backyard.
Mhm.
And I think if we just, you know, work toward keeping a clean representation, it goes a long ways with what the city thinks of our street department. Fire department, there again, they're right there hand in hand with our PD. I think they're one of the best there is. Them two departments put us at that rating of number 3. Just make sure they continue to grow, as already been mentioned, as the city does, and work as teams to stay safe and healthy, and that's keeping them staffed fully to where nobody's running a shift by themselves. And you know, right now they've done that. And make sure we budget for their safety equipment. Recreation, I'd like to see the department head have more time in the office. John works diligently as his employee more than as a department head. It would be nice for him to have more time to actually do department head work, which is organization, grant, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But there again, for that to happen, means more employees. Our rec department's probably the smallest one in the county,
No question.
and I think they do just as much, if not more, than some of the others. I'd just like to see 1 or 2 more employees there. Court, as Tyler mentioned, getting the caseload caught up and then keep it up, and I don't think there's a problem there. I seen her coming out of there the other day in the middle of the day. Utilities, billing, I'm just maintaining good public relations. I think they do a top-notch job of that these days. And then just make sure we keep the window staffed. You know, sometimes I think during lunchtime, and then that's lunchtime for a lot of people in town, they come in and there's only one person at the window, and it can back up a little bit, but just keeping the window staffed. And the water crew, I mean, I really don't. You know, the only thing I would try to look at there, and this would probably go back to my administration comment about merit-based raises. They're, you know, you look at the guys that do the grunt work, they're the least paid. You know, look at the lower paid employees in that department without getting compression on salaries, but look at their salaries a little bit. Water plant, the only thing I got there is open up the category for C or D operators. Try to get some people interested out there. It's hard to get people that has A or B, or especially an A license, to relocate. I think moving forward, we need to start looking at getting lower class guys out there. And if you get the younger guys interested, even if you have to train them, in 3 or 4 years, they're running the plant and they will love it and they will stay there. I'm telling you, that is one of the best careers in the business as far as what it takes to do it once you get there. Sewer, as we all know, this is a one-man employment operation. I know Scott, them guys do a lot of grunt work with him, but
They hired one while I was out, so
did they?
they've got 2 now.
Okay, well, there we go. But as far as the sewer on the city side, I'd like to see us come up with a plan to keep the public more informed with what's going on, like the sewer plant operations and costs. So it's not a slap in the face when we have to do a pay rate increase. You know, they can follow us with the media and on our city webpage, to make sure everybody's informed. And last but not least, let's make sure we don't lose and get behind with West Union on our sewer issues.
I think the billing that we'll go to, the meter, I think that'll alleviate that problem, so.
I know we discussed that a little bit, but I just wanna make sure we stay on that.
Mr. Woodward.
Yes, sir. Administration should provide snacks and food, or not, just kidding, no. Positions, fill those, and just keep advertising the city, you know, that's what's, to bring in new things, get people coming in, housing. Community development, I put down as, let's look at housing for different levels of income. You know, like Grant said, with housing, you're gonna, you know, things grow. What's next? Public, police. Office hours, maybe. I don't know if, you know, maybe extend it a little bit in the afternoons.
Okay.
That's something I think I'd like to see them work at. Cause you call up there to certain, and they're all gone, it switches you over to the county, so maybe.
Okay.
We'll see on that one. Public Works, again, I think, having a schedule that we can keep up with, that we can know, and then the public should know, you know, of what days things are gonna be picked up. And then like, with that also, the equipment needs to be, they need to kinda keep a schedule up on that. I think they're doing better.
Keep a schedule
Of their hours on equipment, what needs to be, if something, breaks down.
Okay,
That
okay,
kind of
all right. Just, keep a
log,
maintenance.
I guess,
yeah.
maintenance log.
Okay.
Fire, can't say much they need to do, they just, upgrades as necessary, you know, let them, they need, and I didn't realize how much some of those things cost. You know, the outfits, the tank, you know, we need to have, be sure that they can get that when they need it. Recreation, addition of at least maybe the flag football, if we could possibly get that. Volleyball's gonna be something, it's gonna be a little harder to do. But, from the inside there, a little better communication, with the public and, getting out information.
So it would be safe for me to say that flag football would be your first
Yeah,
priority, and then volleyball?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think flag would be the easiest one to put in, just because of, you know, what you have to do. If you start volleyball, that's expensive, putting all those things in the courts, you know, unless we could use other people's
Okay.
gyms, so which Jennifer did say we could use their equipment up there. Court, I think, hours on that sometimes, I know there's people come up there to pay a fine or something, there's nobody there, you know, well, that'd be whoever. Utilities.
So,
Go.
would that be expand the office hours
Yes.
of court?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I don't know, that'd be. And that, you know, that sometimes would depend too on how many people you have.
It is open 8:30 to 5. It's only just a single person office.
Right.
So when she goes to lunch or has to go to the bank, there's nobody there, so.
And I think that's why I hear people say, I went up there and nobody, you know, they were closed for lunch. That might have been the only time they
So-
could go. And I don't know how you could work around that.
So I'm just thinking here, instead of saying expanding the office hours, maybe reconfigure the office
Reconfigure.
hours so they go to a lunch
Right.
or the bank at different times, maybe first of the morning. So, because
Yeah.
if you go to lunch at noon, everybody else is at lunch then. So,
Right.
all right.
Just a thought there, Brandon, could there not something be worked where one of the police officers could go to the bank for her?
Well, they're not bonded, so she's really the one that
Nobody in the police
that handles
police
money.
department bonded?
And no, and they're
Okay.
really, don't wanna mix
Oh.
those functions, the judicial and the, enforcement functions, so.
Just a question.
Now,
That's
it might be good that one of the water clerks go by and pick up money, but I say that, but I'm not sure, because all that money gets turned into court administration, so they may have specific requirements of the money handling, cause the city audits it, but also the state court administration also audits those funds, so I'm not exactly sure that there might be a specific process.
Expand the hours was reconfigured.
Yeah, okay.
I think.
Okay.
Utilities, is that,
Yes.
we've always had people arguing about the time to get your bills paid and so forth. You can't make them all happy, but try to, see if there's any way we could do that to, I mean, they got enough going on up here anyway, but, they, like you said, though, sometimes there's only one there at lunch, maybe stagger that. I know everybody has to go to lunch and talk and, has their free time for a little while, but may have to reconfigure, especially towards the end of the month when everybody gets kind of. Water crew, the only thing I had there is in there a position open, or did they fill that one?
They filled that one. There is a meter reader position.
Okay. Just work to try to get a full staff on that. On the water plant, I just had staffing on that. And the sewer, we need to work on the sewer lines, but having a little better rapport with public when things will refer to the next person in line. Sometimes they're a little bit short. Like, we should be best we can talk, be as pleasant as we can with the community. Not, no, we can't do that. Maybe tell them why we can't do that, those kind of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. We'll start with administration. First, I would like to say in the last 18 months, Brandon has done fantastic. We've had more going on than in the last 11 years I can ever remember. Done a great job. Now, having said that, we need to be careful that we don't add to, in my opinion, what we already have. We have so many projects going on, we need to complete some of the ones we've started. We've got the project at Stump House, and I know it's in progress, but we've also talked about getting the county to help us put in another parking lot there, things like that. We need to get that one finished. We've got the DOT money that has been given us for paving and sidewalks. We need to get that finished this year as quickly as we can, where we can apply for some more. Once we get that done, they'll probably allow us to have some more. You've already said that you're trying to work to bring our building codes back inside. That needs to happen. I think that would be great. I'm gonna agree with Mr. Pace, I look at the, I think the possibility of looking at, merit raises instead of across the board. I think there's areas in the city, probably everybody would need some sort of raise, but some positions need to be raised more than others. And if you do across the board raises, it's hard to adjust those. I think, like Keith said, what the state does would allow us, you know, maybe we establish an amount of money that we can put in raises and let the department heads and Brandon, our administrators, figure out where the money needs to go. Now, is that doable? I don't know. That would be for y'all to decide. All right, community development. Of course, I think we need to continue to support Main Street. I do think there's some changes need to be made there, but by doing that, we will be continuing to look for ways to support our businesses in town. I think our businesses, our downtown, our Main Street is the heart of Walhalla, and we do need to focus on that as much as we can. Funding, that's another thing. We'll just have to figure out how to do that. Continue to enforce violations on property management. I think we need to look at the possibility to either through establishing grants or some other way to help with infrastructure for the areas, like you mentioned, Keith, that there are none, there are no water, there are no sewer lines in some areas. If we do that, if we can get a developer to go in some of those areas, we're probably gonna have to help them with water and sewer. So we need to look at that. Police, they're doing a great job. Continue their training. Yeah, if we can extend hours a little bit, that'd be great. Public Works, is that next?
Yes, sir.
I think we're all pretty much on the same page there to clean up facilities, and communication. One item, and Russ is working on this, and Brandon and I have talked about it. Some of you have probably as well. I hear from a lot of the merchants, restaurants, that they don't have enough containers of the large containers, and that's causing Russ to have to visit those very often. I don't know if we can improve that, but if we can, that would be good. Maybe put some more in some strategic areas, and we may have to fence them and give keys, put locks there. Fire department, just make sure they have needed supplies. They're doing a great job. Rec, we talked about establishing existing programs. Now, I think some of these programs could be paid for if you hire a part-time instructor, part-time help. They could be paid for with the fees they bring in. In days gone by, for instance, Walhalla had tennis lessons. Well, they hired the tennis coach at the high school, and anybody that wanted to have tennis lessons, it was $10, $15, whatever, but that money basically went directly to him. There's ways to do that without using city funds. Our court, I've met and talked to the judge. I think we just give her a little time. I think she's gonna get everything going, but I'm good with that. I think that's gonna be fine. All right, utilities, I'm on the same page with what you mentioned, just more days to to allow people time to pay their bill. Let's be honest, nobody's mentioned part of the problem here is the post office. And I'm not blaming anybody there, it's just a fact that, some people get their bill on the 2nd, 3rd, some people get it on the 10th or 11th. That's not anything we can control.
We've had several enforcement letters, and actually our sewer bill was returned to us. Correct address, correct zip code, but for whatever reason, it was returned to sender. So there's big issues with mailing.
They're
so.
struggling with
Yeah.
employment and.
Yep.
and-
Same thing that everybody else is.
Water crew, they're doing a great job. Just support them, whatever they need. Water plant, I think we need to continue to look at the program to recruit and train instead of trying to hire somebody else's operator. I've done, since our last regular meeting, in December, I've done a lot of research on what water plant operators are paid in other parts of the state. Our pay is not necessarily the problem. If you go to Greenville County's website, Greenville Water System, and look, they've got a system there that they have trainees. The trainees start at like $18.50 an hour, and they've got classification 1, 2, 3, 4 after that. Each time they move up one level, the first level, they get a 10% raise. And I've got this stuff if anybody wants to look at it. I brought it. But then when they get to the next phase, they get a 5% raise. And they do that as they're trained. I just think that's the way to do it. It's, Coach, and I know in the education system in Oconee County now, a lot of teachers' aides, after they've been there, the county helps them go back and get their degree where they can become teachers. They're promoting from within. And I think if we'll concentrate on that, I think we could improve. I'm not gonna say it's a fix.
Well, we did that with one person. Paul was out there. He
Mhm.
went as a trainee, now he's a D operator. You know, and before long he'll have a C. If he passes
I just
test.
think it's very difficult to get somebody.
And like I iterated a month or so ago, just like, I'll just use him for an example, cause he's there. When he's there, he's not licensed to operate by himself, so that means there's 2 operators there at the same time. They get a lot more done. That's when all the maintenance work happens, and I think that's the way to go.
Our sewer lines, just to continue to make repairs. We talked about what the sewer authority's going to do, what their plan is. We need to be careful to keep working with the sewer authority to make sure they repair the Flat Rock pump station. That thing has been, it's been in need of a replacement. I know for at least 5 years, we've argued about getting that thing replaced. There is no telling how much water is going through that line that does not come from Wahala that we're paying for. We've been paying for it for years. And we have tried and tried, and now they're almost there. We just gotta make sure they fix it. That's all I got.
Mr. King.
Alrighty, just keep this simple. Main priority, as much as possible. Let me preface it by this, I got great confidence in the department heads you have and you, and as long as they're as much as possible, fully staffed, fully equipped, fully compensated. They're gonna know the best way to get things done, the best way to hire people. I'm for them, let them do their jobs, because we got good people. Beyond that, and that's the same for every department, you can write that down later, you know, and save you some typing. What we talked about in the billing office, implementing, he's already got the ideas going on this.
Right.
Him and Scott, it's great, you know, go for it, go for it. The only thing that I disagree 100% opposite Danny, and that's the community development. I think we need to shift from focus on one street to the entire city. And Main Street is, my opinion, is not the heart of Wahala. The people are the heart of Wahala. And the housing, the people are hurting for places to live. And that's where we need to work our community development, is in housing. So,
I think you can do both.
you gotta have a goal. I'm done.
Okay.
Fancy that, look at that.
For the administration side, I do, well, first of all, I'm a firm believer that we can learn from each other. And also learning from other areas, they can go for professional development, whether it be training. So I do want to make sure that there is an increase on administration. I think administration, I think about all your department heads too, like administration, so increase in travel and training. In regards to professional development or opportunities for our department heads to also be among other department heads statewide when it comes to those opportunities. Under administration, I think I saw there's a line item, increase mayor and council expense. I do wanna say that I don't know if that's our monthly check, but if it's increasing for professional development for our council, that's where I would like to see an increase. To support with mileage, stay, and also to pay the fees that it requires from that. I do agree, and I will echo several things of my members here. The overload and complete projects, I do foresee that we need to continue. If you just want to put like a times, or so that way it's not repetitive, but what you said, Mayor, like I know we have a lot of projects going on. I know every one of us have a lot of things going on, whether it be your personal life or your civic life. So I think prioritizing those projects to the finish line will be a priority. And I do agree the pay increase by performance. I think to add that to Keith's point, if there is somewhere where our head departments can get some training to understand what personnel evaluation is for their department, I think that will be important. So that way it could be, I guess you can say, fair across the whole board, but also fair within the department, because whatever Park and Rec personnel advancement is going to happen is going to be different from fire department. So I want to make sure that that is in alignment with that. Okay, community development will be next. For community development, I understand is a team effort, so it's under, our current hire that was just hired, and also the interim who's working for the Main Street program. So I would like to see, I know we used to get reporting directly from Main Street, but now that we're shifting and making it under that umbrella, I would like to see some quarterly reports in regards to the projects. I guess that could land on community development, but also the latest on Main Street as well. And I know this is a subject under community development that, me and my colleagues differ, but I believe there's a balance between continue bringing in that quality of life of the projects and the Main Street initiatives that are happening, but also prioritizing what you mentioned, Keith, Grant, housing. So that's gonna come along the lines with the comprehensive plan, so I think we just have to balance it out, I feel. Also improving with grants under community development, because I know there's a lot of opportunities to grow in grant exploration under community development, especially the ones that we're probably are going to have a good partnership with, at the state level, whether it be the South Carolina Commission of Arts or the South Carolina Humanities, Foundation. For police, I would say the expanding office hours, definitely exploring that. And also I wanted to add something on there. We'd like to see what does it mean to have a supportive language, accessible to language support system within the court. That's court, I'm sorry, but I guess with police, in a way, how are they managing that? So accessibility to language, or access to language. I know they have a bilingual officer there, but I know there was conversation on how do we support that and enhance it. Okay, Public Works. Pay scale, I'm also considering that, across the board, we mentioned it. Perhaps also developing in the Public Works some form of, because my understanding is just the director and then everybody else is employees, right? There's no like fire, captain, marshal, like we have in different departments. Do we have that in the Public Works?
There's, Michael Moss is Russ's number 2, so he's sort of the assistant department
Okay.
head, or department director.
Okay, just wanna make sure that we can reflect that, if it's like a verse of like, title or whatnot, so that way, we can have a nice flow of that. So in the case Mr. Russ is not able to present, he could be presenting or at least getting some support on that, okay. Again, communication system, strengthen that under Public Works to help with customer service satisfaction. If there's a way to put some money to have some creative ways of marketing that, that'd be great, under Public Works. I was just thinking how sometimes we think just having a piece of paper would help, but what if we just had like a magnet, that was, I know it's gonna cost money, but it's like one of those things that when you establish your water, your sewer, your everything, you get something and you can put it on your fridge, and that could be something that can keep you, there's a number. There's probably ways that we can be creative on that. Okay, on fire, I have increase, and here's the line items that I want to see increase. Volunteer firemen, health supplies, capital equipment, dues and license, equipment maintenance, and I know we said grants. I just want to continue mentioning grants, that could be an area. If there's a match, I know they've been very successful under the chief's leadership to secure grants, so I can continue in that support for him. Under recreation, again, grants, it's gonna be the same, in regards to supporting the staff, ensuring that we can be creative, like the mayor mentioned, that tennis example, so having areas to support, funding part-timers, that could be program management, when it comes to recreation. I would also like to see, when we mention about office, department head in the office, I would like to add even looking at reorganizing our sponsorship. I think that's something that I've seen in other cities, and I think we've been strong in that in the past, but I'd like to see that again when there's a sponsorship package, maybe strengthen that, more advertisement in regards to sponsorship. And under court, I think I just wanted to explore what the language, access to language support system looks like. So just ensuring that we have the accessibility and we're prepared if there was a barrier with language, that there is support. Legally, we should be providing that. So I just want to see how we can explore that and how we're doing it now and what can it look like. Billing office, pretty much the same with what everybody's saying on that one, so I wouldn't add anything more. The water crew, just ensuring that we're fully staffed and making sure that our pay is what could be bring incentives with that. I know in the past we've offered different type of incentives, so looking at that. Because that is the revenue one and also customer service satisfaction, so we need to make sure that that's fully staffed. Same with water plant. It looks like everything there, I would agree with my colleagues. And I can't see any more of that. And the same with sewer. Yeah.
Save this. Just kind of, I'm not going to recap this, but just kind of, I made notes, and there was some things that I started to go over at the beginning of this, but I said I wasn't going to throw stuff in the middle of the conversation, but I think there's a lot of things that we've hit on, and there's a lot of things that we are working on. I hear a lot about recruitment. I know me and Chief Rice and Scott looking at a citywide recruitment bonus. I don't know how much that would be, but someone comes on their first year, well, when they get hired, they meet certain qualifications, they would get 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. I don't know what that number is, but they would get a bonus. And, you know, in agreement, you know, to work for us for a specified time. I know a lot of agencies do that, and that's something that we'll look into. I hear a lot about customer service, and I'll go ahead and mention I am looking long-term. I don't know that it would be anything that would happen as soon as this next physical year, but I've been looking at adding another water crew, and that would be an equipment operator and 2 maintenance workers. That'll expand that department. That'll help. If one crew's working on leaks and water taps, the other crew can be working on projects. So that's something that we're exploring and looking at. On the sanitation side, one of my goals is to get that department as close as possible to being to stand on their own. I know we're not looking towards any sort of fee increase, but there's possibly might be a fee increase on sanitation. We'll just have to look and see what that looks like when we start crunching numbers. That was a few things that I wanted to mention that we're already looking at in respect to some of these comments. So. All right. The next one is going to be the biggest one and probably the most fun. This is going to kind of be a 3-phase exercise. First part of it will be y'all write down, after hearing everyone's responses, what do you feel are the city's 5 main goals? After you come up with those, then there'll be time for y'all to discuss amongst yourselves, and then we'll compile this into a list that y'all will vote on and submit to me. That helps guide us. There are several ways we can stab this. Look at the end if you want to pick categories like public safety, capital improvement, quality of life, or infrastructure development, housing develop, whatever, that we can break these goals down into categories, or you can list them as each specific goal. So just kind of keep that in mind, that we're not constraining this to a certain box, but we're able to try to kind of build this out. So if after you fill this out, and once everybody's filled out, go around the room and start fleshing this out and start talking about it. What y'all feel those goals are. If you feel like, if the conversation's headed towards, all right, we've got these three overarching things, and then there's a couple up under it, we can definitely do that. Or we can list out 5 goals, and this will be the 5 goals for the budget, and this will be the overriding. Yeah, we'll take a break before we get started, but these will be this will kind of be the guiding document that from myself, and that that department heads work off of. So we'll take the other stuff, compile that in too, but this will be the overarching, our guidance. So we'll take a little while to do that, but take a break.
Have we had something like this before before your administration, but that you could find from previous, like, a sample?
No, I've not found. I might have. Let me go back and look. I know we discussed this in 2021. We had a sort of a workshop like this in 21.
Okay.
But let me go back. I can pull some stuff.
Did he say these are the 5 main goals for the city budget for this coming year, or for the rest of the year till 2024? Is it specifically budget related, or is it like an overall?
Yeah, that's what he said. This will be like what our department heads will work off of for next year's budget. Kind of
Okay.
the way I took it.
Yeah, I was just confused because he said we were gonna vote on it, and he's probably gonna do something to vote on it so that we all can be in alignment with it. It sounds like, but I was just confused if it's budget related or main goals that we want to see, or
No, it's got to
no,
be
it got to be
feasible.
within
Yeah,
doable within this year,
yeah.
so that way it can be like a
24,
guiding
yeah.
document. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we still got raccoons within the city. It's good to know. Just watch one walk across my property.
I seen a coyote a couple of months ago at my house.
Oh, yeah, well,
I mean, right in downtown.
yeah. Yeah, I see them every week I got cameras out.
Yeah.
I see them every week, coyotes. So we got deer, turkey, coyotes, just outside across the creek, about 25 feet, Max Turpin had a bear on his camera. So I'm sure that thing made the 25 feet over into city property at some point. What else? Plenty of squirrels. armadillos have made it.
Still got plenty of skunks too.
You got skunks by you, huh? I don't have
I
any
saw-
skunks by me.
I saw one, on North Catherine Street, somebody had ran over this morning coming
Oh,
here.
really?
Yeah, I could smell one outside the.
Oh, that
right
must
there
have been
on
it.
Catherine Street. There
It
one of
was,
the houses last night.
right in front of Sertoma Field right there.
You know,
Somebody hit
yeah.
I live up on Cherokee, right there on the first house next to the road.
Yeah,
There was some skunk like right up in my
you smell
business
that.
last night.
Mhm.
I don't know how it got there. Seems like it would
What
have to.
else do we have? Oh, we have plenty of deer. Thank
I'm
you.
handing out,
Thanks
Now,
for
are
keeping that
these
going.
five main goals, these are for this coming year.
yes.
Okay.
I found this when I was going through some file cabinets. This was a planning retreat council did in 2016, so it's somewhat dated. I did, in, I think August or September, sometime in 2021, we had a workshop. And I can probably pull some notes from that as well. It's a little bit different, but, so, this was what they came up with in 2016.
Had a hotel on there. Talking about that for a long time, huh? It's hard to believe that's 7 years ago. 2016.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I graduated.
I guess at that time, the vision and mission was like a form of, in that time, the council that adopted
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yep.
Somehow it would be great to incorporate that whenever we have that finalized document. That will, in some ways, I don't know.
Yeah, I
It's
can,
the first time I see something like this, and it would help with bringing conversations back and
Yeah.
have some alignment there.
Yeah. I'll make reference to that after I get everything put together, but after, since this is an election year, next year, we'll have a planning retreat
Okay,
to really dig deep in your mission and vision statement
that's
and,
great.
and, chart the course.
Sarah, something we talked about while everyone's finishing. Yesterday I talked with a gentleman at Habitat.
Mhm.
They are planning to build 5 houses on South Catherine and over next, close to Wesley Street,
Okay,
over and behind Chicopee Methodist Church.
yeah. Wow.
They're planning to start in the near future.
Oh,
They'll
that's great.
be doing them probably one at a time like they did at West Union. but
Mhm.
It's a good program.
That's great.
That's
That's
good.
good to hear.
There's a bunch
Wes-
of them up behind Ingles, right?
Hmm.
There's a bunch of them up behind Ingles, kinda.
Gosh, yeah. Yeah, there's probably, what, 20, I guess,
Yeah,
25?
those are nice.
They pretty much built that out, what he told me, and that's what I thought. You can't, without driving down in there, you can't see.
Those are nice little houses.
He's looking for volunteers to
Yeah.
build.
I'm sure it
That's
should-
their number one. They have money, they don't have volunteers.
Where did you say it was gonna be?
Um,
Possibly?
South Catherine Street, out close to Wesley Street out in there.
There's like a field there.
Yeah, next to,
Kinda near Collins Street Baptist Church.
Chicopee Methodist Church in behind
Mm-hmm.
there.
It's good.
That's near the Mill Hill, isn't it?
It is.
Mhm.
West
That's
Yeah.
on-
Just
that's on the
west of-
Mill Hill, I would say.
Okay. So
I'll
they
consider that.
acquired the land already, is that
Mhm.
what it is? Okay. And to build about 5 homes there?
Mhm.
That's a great program. And I know
That'll
part of
help.
that program, incentive is the home buyer is part of the volunteer process, and they're doing all that, so.
They have sweat.
They have to
equity.
qualify too, so it's not just
But
first
yeah,
come, first serve.
Not just from
Yeah.
what he told me, but if you go to their website, they talked about that they have the money to build. They talked about how many they build in a year, 4 or 5, but they said that we've got funds to build more than that. We just, we can't do it with the people they have, the volunteers and the staff they have.
Most all those volunteers come from the lakes.
I was thinking, what do you think if all of us volunteered on one?
That would be a great
That'd be
team
neat.
building, yeah.
Yeah.
We could build it, no problem there.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah. Only problem is the schedule they build. All you guys are working.
And
Coach is gonna be out of commission here for a while,
Yeah.
after you get your surgery over and done with.
You getting a lobotomy? What do you
Might be the best thing. Total hip replacement, my left one.
That's-
I have my right one, so my left one next. And, gotta put a stop in things for a while.
It must have been interfering with your golfing while you're getting
Oh,
this done.
definitely that.
Yeah.
But I planned it around the meetings here, so we actually just fell that way. The doctor told me when he's gonna do it, so.
When you going in?
February the 16th is when they're gonna have it done. It's in and stay a day, maybe 2, depending on,
Oh, really? They're giving you a whole day, huh?
well, yeah.
Wow.
Last one I had, was the first case at 8. At 12, they got me up to walk down the hall. We're gonna,
I had something, huh?
that's unreal.
That is something.
Yeah. We can go, you can start when you're down, just go ahead.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
All right. You ready? We'll go ahead and start. Yeah, just go ahead and list your 5.
what I feel,
Yeah.
this is after hearing everybody kind of distilling what everybody said. So number 1, grow our revenue streams, looking at development, residential and commercial development. Looking at improving our infrastructure short term, or flat rock, finishing up that paving projects. I'm sure there's other things to be done. We have the ability to do so this year. Everybody talked about making sure everyone's fully staffed and paid and equipped. So in that, this year, that's cost of living, however that looks, whether it's across the board or merit-based, some kind of wage adjustment, recruitment like you talked about. When you mentioned the bonus thing, so you already have good ideas on that. Everybody talked about improving customer service in different ways, expanding or reconfiguring office hours, shifting staff around, to make sure that our citizens get best customer service. And everybody also talked about better communication from the city, and that came down to like publishing. I think everybody talked about publishing the routes, Public Works specifically. And, we could do that this year. That'd be a huge improvement. And advertising, whether that be for city services or city attractions. So that's what I've got for everybody.
Okay.
Make the city infrastructure worry-free. We expand and, for 3 years I've been pushing to, that's our revenue, we need to create more of it, and we're doing that. But we can't forget the lines that's in the ground. You drive around inside the city and you see these little white flags everywhere on the water puddles because it's failing, it's old. I think that's a big concern. To focus in town some, continue with the Main Street program. You know, that's done wonders for us, as far as recognition. People from all over the country come here because of that program. But just like Grant said, but as the city, we need to promote all the city, all of downtown. You know, I've kind of advocated that in the past. The side streets is just as important as Main Street. Those folks pay the same for business licenses as the ones on 28. A big focus on residential and commercial development. All the department heads to continue to work together as a whole and support each other. You know, that's really livened up in the last 8 months or so, and man, it shows. It just, I don't know what else to say. It shows when the city employees all work as one. And then, as several others here has mentioned, let's try to finish up all the city projects that's on the books this year. I know we have to iterate new projects as we move, but let's get these finished.
Mine was finish the projects. Like Mayor said, that we've got going, that we need to get hold of those, get those done so we can get money and continue on. Upgrades of equipment and things necessary especially for the safety and for the growth of each department. Things that the police department, fire department, well, any of them do that especially safety conditions. Plan for and implement, for projects, plan for and implement projects that will include, or for the growth of the city. And I just put it in major changes. I said, plan for the major changes that the rec department's gonna have to go through over starting this year, as far as we really got to start thinking about that. And the last one was the housing, development of housing for various incomes.
Next.
I would go back to what some of you guys have said. Finish all these projects, because we have a lot of them going on between water line replacements and all the grants we've received. We just need to finish what we've started. Number 2, improve our infrastructure. We are continuing to do that, and we just need to continue to work on that. Number 3, employee pay, benefits. We've talked about a lot of different ways we can do that. That's important. Affordable housing would be the 4th one, and number 5 is the development of college in Maine. I think that will be huge for our city if we can get the right developer there. It would increase our income stream, Tyler, like you mentioned, and it would just add a lot to the whole city in a lot of ways.
Any more comments, Mayor?
Hmm?
Or any more comments?
I
No,
know
I'm
we're
done.
waiting, okay.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Number one, freedom. Respecting people's freedom. Two, employees, that they're well compensated, well equipped. Three, meeting the residents' common needs in an excellent manner. Clean water, clean environment, safety, security, quality of life, which I do not believe has anything to do with money, has everything about common courtesy and understanding and care and kindness, and which in large part is further through the recreation department, can be. And development of residential development, as we've talked about, affordable housing, and last of all, commercial development.
Under meeting residents' common needs, you said safety.
Clean water, clean environment, you know, it's our water plan, our sanitation department, it's all our departments, what we do.
Okay.
But it's what it's there for, you know. It's what it's there. Recreation's there to develop. It's an important thing, and it develops people well, and it gets people in their interaction with one another. And I think it's a big part of quality of life.
Okay.
Not making more money doesn't do it. We watch rock stars and football stars kill themselves all the time. They got all the money in the world, not killing themselves. They don't quality of life.
Okay, so for my number one is investing in our employees, so whether it be exploring options of pay scales or even benefits, as we mentioned in other conversations, retirement, 401ks and whatnot. The second one for me is really investing into the planning of this comprehensive plan. Because I think, just a note, I know we have these that become papers collecting dust in the past, or even at the county side, but if we invest this nice and clearly, then we have a plan that we can always go back, whether new leadership of council changes or not. And I think if we invest it well with hiring facilitators, like you mentioned, that process is going to take a while. So that's my number two. Number three, obviously continue with the projects, staying active on those projects and finish them. But along the lines of projects, also the programming. So the partnerships that we have currently with YMCA, making sure that we continue those partnerships because they've been vital to us. I'm in communication with Sarah Carpenter, the organizer of the Walhalla Community Garden, and I want to continue having that dialogue when it comes to programs or projects that are already utilizing our assets in the community. So the bike park that we did at the, I know it's not playground equipment, but it was an initiative to bring that community together for the children. So when I think about programs, I think community partners that can influence the programs, whether it be nonprofits. Obviously, investing in our local economy with initiatives of current programs that are supporting that, and partnerships with other organizations that could be of a support to enhance that. And with the comprehensive plan, can you put housing on there? Just because I know that was mentioned and it will be brought up, but that's part of that, housing, even what it looks like now in the future. And number 5, I would say just strengthening communication between our own body of government as a whole, because we function as a body, not individual. So I want to make sure that that communication is strengthened between all of us and also to the citizens of Walhalla. So it's a two-way street. We work for the city of Walhalla citizens, and the citizen also need to we need to make ourselves accessible as well. So, and that's all.
I'm going to print these out, so you'll have all of them.
Do you see this? Yeah, do you see those? Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
How do you envision this with this? Will you bring all of this together so we can see which all together will have 5 as a one body, or how would it work? I know we all
Yes,
got
I'm
individual.
gonna print these out, so y'all all got them, and then after you look at them, run them over your head, 5 minutes or so. I want them all compiled, I want 5 of them from
All
the back.
together.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
That'd be lunchtime.
I just had my one.
Your stickers? I say, man.
That wasn't a sneaker.
So,
That was a
what was it?
protein bar.
Oh, healthier than I gave you credit for.
Dark chocolate and coconut.
That's
Actually,
great.
absolutely.
Yeah. I'm trying to do a health kick. So
Thank you, sir.
Smoothies.
Mhm.
Every day is good.
Mhm.
I get energy. Good running extra time.
Yeah.
At nighttime, everybody can see me struggling.
Now, you want us to do what with this? Say that again?
Y'all, review this, and then we'll open it up. Like I said, if y'all wanna pick categories, or if you just wanna go straight, these are council's priorities, one through 5 for the upcoming fiscal year.
I think that's the best way to do it, because one shouldn't outweigh the other.
Right, so we'll take these and we'll dissect these. It's 11:47, so hopefully we can work through some of these. If we need to take a lunch break, we can do that. I would like to get this hammered out today. If not, we may have to schedule another session. But we'll take, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and we'll start with number 1, and then y'all discuss what you think. And it's not an order of priority, it's just the order, it's just number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So y'all look at this list and pick out what y'all think should be the focus for the budget in the next year. And from what I just hear, merely, I believe, continuing and finishing projects, improve infrastructure. We could probably want improved customer service and better communication together. Residential, commercial development, and then capital equipment and employee pay and benefits. So those, I think those are just the high points, but definitely, we might be able to combine a couple of them and make that into a goal. So, that's just the main ones, so.
I'm gonna have to go,
Okay.
so, I'm good with whatever you guys do. You know how I feel.
Okay.
It's there 1 through 5, so do what you want. Thank you for everything. I don't know how you type so fast when everybody was telling you what they had to do. You'd have been a good radio guy doing that. That was live. So, thank you, Brandon. Thank you all.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Bye, Grant.
Can I throw something at you?
You can.
Cause I know we're not really talking numbers today, but I have I have my own little personal list
Okay.
of things. 'Cause you mentioned the capital, the replacement plan that we started last year. All this money that we generate from these gov sales, is that going into that fund?
It does, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Alright, here's one other little aspect. Each department has a budget. And I know in the past, your predecessor, if they finished in the black, that money went right back into the general fund. I'd like for us to figure out a way, if, say the police department comes in with $12,000 excess, it stays in their budget for the next year. Because we've already, and this is just my way of thinking, we've allocated that money to be spent for the year. It's out of the budget when we start the next year.
Yep.
And instead of rolling that money back into the general fund and starting over again, why can we not leave it in their operating budget outside of what we're budgeting now?
Yep.
It will encourage each department to save money. And then when they come up and
And not spend it all.
need a, something to complete an in-house project, or if they need a pickup truck all of a sudden,
Yeah.
they got their own funds.
And we don't have to go and amend it.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's
like
just
that.
a thought.
I like the thought of that. It's
I don't know that there's been a lot left.
There's been a
in
few
most of
times
the
that they,
departments, but-
My, I guess retort to that is, we would probably have to, if you wanted it department specific, we would have to create a fund, basically a savings account for each department to put that in. But if other departments go over, and they go over, and simply just because things are what they are, where do we pull that money from if Department A is 10,000 to the good, but Department B is 9,000 in the red, not by any fault of their own, just because of goods and services? Where do we pull that? How do we make that adjustment?
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. It's something, obviously, I'm sure there's other jurisdictions that's doing this. It's something that we can look into. Yeah.
Oh, I know a couple of years ago, the police department, I'm just using them, they had a excess and then got denied a vehicle. That's before you.
Yeah.
But they had money that went back into the fund, but yet we didn't have the money to buy them a new car.
Now, if they have money towards the end of that fiscal year that's unspent, and it doesn't look like we need that to take care of other shortfalls, by all means, if we can work something out, no, I think that's appropriate within that calendar year or that fiscal year. It's just once you move into another fiscal year to close out that audit, I'm not exactly
Right.
sure how those mechanics
Right.
would work, but we can look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of went through and tallied up what everybody said. How many times have you mentioned? Just to start.
Yeah.
I think Brandon kind of mentioned.
Have you ever looked over the previous comprehensive plan? It's on the webpage.
Yeah, I was trying to have it on paper so I can highlight, but I was going back and forth.
Yeah.
Was it like 2000?
15, I think.
15. It's on the
Yeah.
website. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. It's just kind of look it over, you ain't gotta read it word for word, but there's a lot of good points in that was made that has not been touched.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to see going forward, the next comprehensive plan, that there's actually some thought put into planning stuff that we can actually carry out.
So follow through.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part, using the acronym, creating smart objectives is
Yeah.
making sure that they are obtainable.
Yeah.
So,
Celia and I talked about some of that yesterday.
Yeah.
okay.
While y'all are, is everybody finished?
I just,
Everybody done?
I'm just
Okay.
waiting on discussion.
we're
Well,
ready
we
to
can go
go.
with that.
Yeah, man, and I'm ready whenever y'all are.
I think we're good to go.
Okay, yeah.
Well, the one thing that was mentioned several times is projects. Residential and commercial development. And employees, you know, I don't know how many council members actually indulge in what your role is, but first and foremost, it's supposed to be your city employees. So it's, you know, it's nice to know that we all mention our city employees, because they are what makes us a city.
I see another connection here, may I share?
Yes,
The economy, so
yes.
I think, I've said invest in local economy with partnership. You, Keith, you mentioned the Main Street program.
Mhm.
The mayor mentioned that as well. We're supportive of that. So somewhere in the lines of building our local economy,
Economic development.
continuing that and strengthening that.
And I would
Think-
just like to add to that, Mr. King mentioned that, and some of the rest of you mentioned that we needed to focus on the whole town. When I mention Main Street, I pretty much mean downtown. I'm talking about block from South Broad to North Broad, all the
Yeah.
commercial area.
Hmm.
I'm not talking about Steakhouse to Bound Chef.
Pretty much what we changed the downtown overlay to.
Yes, all the commercial
Mhm.
area, I consider that part of the Main Street area.
Right.
I'm not thinking that area on the
Yeah.
street itself.
Well, you know, I think when we started on the Main Street, you said you start here and then it expands.
Yes,
And that's what we're doing,
Yes.
you know,
and once we get our Main Street program certified, which I think we will this year, they can adjust the area that Main Street Wahala works with to the entire city if they like. So, which I would like to see, all commercial development be involved.
I've got one, and I think it might be the least controversial. And I just put it at number 5. Again, these are no order, but, just looking at this list, you're talking about improving, you know, our pay, benefits, create a competitive, employee compensation environment.
I think everybody, pretty much, I had the project things. We need to stay with the upgrades of equipment, you know, especially those that are neat, you know, major kind of things. Housing, infrastructure, and just pay benefits. I didn't want to say perks, benefits, things, so.
I'm gonna give just, I don't know, everybody sitting here knows this. Alright, so I'm gonna take a person that makes $33,700 a year. And the city pays, and I'm not talking about workers' comp and Social Security and all that, I'm talking about what they comes out of their pocket at a plant job.
Mhm.
So the city pays this person that makes $33,700, it pays $5,900 worth of retirement a year to that person, and it pays $6,000, just rounded to $6,200 for insurance. So that $33,700 salary, this guy's making $45,800. If he was working somewhere else, that's what his salary might show, but he ain't bringing that home.
He don't have all those benefits.
He does not. So
I know that
when we,
works.
and Lord help me, I'm not against people making good money, But when you think about that $33,000 salary, it might not sound enticing, but in all reality, it's $46,000 salary. And people have to understand that and kind of take that into thinking when you're looking at raises and adjustments, because our employees make decent money, really.
With the size of our municipality.
Well, I mean, that's and here again, that's a maintenance one operator for the water crew.
I pulled this up yesterday, y'all might find this interested, I've been going to websites, Municipal Association, and some of the other websites. Fountain Inn is advertising for a $1 trash truck, starting pay $17 an hour.
Really? They're
Yeah.
Are they about the size of us, probably? Yeah.
Close, I don't know exactly,
Yeah,
but
close, yeah.
But
Small city.
it's small, but when you look at their budget document,
Oh, it's
apples and oranges.
Really?
Yeah.
What's up with them?
They've got a natural gas utility,
Oh.
yeah. So a lot of those
They
places,
sell that. They
yeah.
sell natural gas.
they sit, and they have 385 that runs nearby, or runs in
And if-
True.
through it now.
And if we had our own electrical system, we would generate so much more
Yep.
income.
Yep.
But that goes back, I would have to say that I put number one, the grow revenue,
Yep.
residential and commercial development.
Yep.
Because
I agree.
by doing that, that allows you to do all these other things
Nothing
that you
else.
wanna do.
That's the thing.
It's the key to everything.
I agree. Gotta get more expand our customer base. So you can call that, we could call it like property development, right? Residential / commercial property development.
I've got developed opportunities for residential and commercial growth.
And that'll grow your revenue every time.
That can make it all go back.
Even growth out in the county, right? I mean, our service goes far.
Yeah.
Have we ever, Brandon, it's probably a difficult thing to calculate, but depreciation on sanitation trucks driving out, you know, to the distant parts of the customer base.
Yeah.
And if it's breaking even, if it's making money, when you factor that in.
It is it's making money.
Okay.
It was kinda, it was questionable there for a while. This last rate increase that we did, I think year before last, that helped.
So it's worth our while.
It is worth our while. It's starting to get, I know, this was back when I was a fire chief, there was discussions about just making sure even if they are farther out in the county, but make sure that they're concentrated. So when we go, we're not picking up one can, we're picking up 100.
Yep.
So to make the trip, out to Knox Road count. So that's the things that they looked at, so,
Okay.
and try to keep everything clustered together.
Yeah, I always just kinda wondered about that.
Yeah.
What about, this is sort of a long-term thing with the water plant, that's really our main source of debt, right? Okay. What's the, what you call it, the, amortization of that, like when we expect to have that paid off?
That'll be another, 20-year, or is that 30-year? No, that was a 30-year.
It was
Yeah, it was 30,
30
I
year.
think, and we paid 3
3 years
or
on it.
4, or we're starting number 4, I guess.
Starting number 4, probably year 8 or 10, once you start building up cause the first couple of years, the only thing you're paying is interest.
Interest, right?
And so once that curve starts, those lines start converging,
Yeah.
you get closer to your payment. Most of it is still gonna be interest, but you're getting more into the principal.
Yep.
We'll start looking at refinancing.
Refinancing to lower our monthly payments?
To lower that, if there's a better interest rate available.
I
as
think
well.
it's 2028.
It's 28, yeah, when it was originally discussed.
Do you anticipate at that point, are we ever gonna be able to pay it, if we refinance it, is that gonna kick it down the road further, you think? Or is that a smarter way to do it, or just pay it off?
It shouldn't. I'm not sure we'd be quite in the position other than just taking just some fund balance and paying extra principal.
Yeah, so at
We'd
that
have to
point,
refi it to do that.
Yeah, you would just have to, we'd have to.
One good thing that we did, that y'all may not be aware of, we started paying, biannually.
Good.
On our payments
Yep.
instead of
Yeah.
That
once a
helps.
year.
Yeah.
And that is going to, over time, it will save us a huge amount of
absolutely,
interest.
it's like a mortgage, if you do
Yeah.
that on a mortgage, it saves
Yeah.
you. So at that point, do we anticipate that, how long is this plant gonna be good for and operational for, is my main question? Cause by that point, we have it kinda paid off, I mean, is it still gonna be?
It's set up to grow. There's parts of that plant that's not even in operation. It grows.
It can, we're running now, I think when we first started, we were like 1.8 MGD. We're at 3 now. So in just a couple of years, we've doubled what we've gotten. But, we can high rate it, which you to 4, and then, but it's expandable to 6.
Wow.
So we've got some room for growth.
It accommodates a lot of growth.
It does.
Just gotta get the sewer to catch up.
Yep.
Sounds
Yep.
like.
Well, that and get our distribution system in shape to handle it.
Okay. I was just kinda thinking, it's kinda random, but just thinking financially, the situation would have to be a lot better once we get that.
Yeah.
Debt taken care of.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's good. But obviously, it's an investment that we made.
Right.
Had to. Okay.
Plus another thing, a way of looking at it, refinancing in 5 years opens the door for other financials,
Right.
like a Rex department.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
we're kind of bound right now.
You can kinda leverage that around once you pay, okay.
Well, we're looking to try to find grant money to build a gym.
Yeah.
That's what we're hoping to do, not
Is the
finance it.
The state,
Right.
from the state or from,
Yep.
what about the county? Does the county kick in much to the city? Do they have much skin in the game? Since we are the,
We could with a PARD grant, I mean, we could ask them, I've looked, you know, floating a general obligation bond, is kind of tricky, because our assessed value is only so much, and state law requires that you can't go over a certain threshold. I think it's, you can't float a GO bond for more than 8%, don't hold me to that, I'd have to go back and look, of your assessed value without going to a referendum.
Oh.
So there's certain constraints,
I guess that makes sense.
yeah. So that restricts council from being able to basically, borrow the
Taxpayers'
city's, you know, worth.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we could do, we could borrow some money against our hospitality tax and
You-
designate
You can
part
use
of
that,
that for a payment
Yep.
to build facilities,
Yep.
rec facilities, that sort of thing.
You can contribute, hospitality tax for debt relief for stuff like that, yeah.
Is that based on your ledger, like at a given time, or is your, or what? If you say-
Hadn't looked really
You
that
borrowing
far
against it?
into it, but I
That's
just
interesting.
know that you can. You can.
Interesting. Okay. That's some more money out there. Okay.
But right now, I'm hoping grants are gonna be the way to go.
Yeah.
No payback.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the state's got a lot of money. Huge surplus. Absolutely. Kept the rebate sometimes, maybe. So, real estate development, economic development, infrastructure improvement, finish our projects, and, obviously invest in staff. However, he worded it differently, but I think everybody pretty much agrees on that. Some things are not caught in that, like the I think, what did you do with the customer service and stuff?
I haven't done that one yet.
'Cause I mean,
That probably is separate, so
cause it's hard to fit it all into 5.
Yeah.
How many you have so far?
I've got two nailed down. Well, let's see here. This is what I have. I've got create competitive employment, create competitive compensation for employment, develop opportunities for residential and commercial growth, complete established projects. That's just an initial, just trying to combine everything.
Under the projects, would everybody be in alignment to agree with, I don't know where we include this, but like the programming, like these partnerships that we have already with YMCA? Well, those with, I mean, they are seasonal, but would that be in
They're
alignment
important.
with projects?
Yeah.
Or are we thinking about
Could be.
citywide projects?
Yeah.
I'm talking more along the lines of like, the paving and giving, what else was it?
Cause when I think of projects, I think about the Greenway project too.
Well,
Is that
Stump
part of that?
house, bike trail.
So somewhere along the lines with like programming, like, cause that will require some dialogue or
How far is the
investment.
bike trail from you? All the way down to the parking lot?
With program partnership with.
Complete established
On that
projects
last-
and continue
last phase.
program
A little while
relationships.
longer.
Does that sound fair to everyone? Yeah.
That trail.
I can update you on, in as far as the list of projects that we've got in queue, is the Westminster, water line. We've got all the final permits for that. We've got to fly and get our materials. We're creeping closer to that one. Y'all have already approved me to enter in the contract with Harper for the water line, the 12-inch water line improvement. We're just working out the backside details on that. We have the Greenway project. ACOG has that contract. Y'all have approved it. Just waiting on final approval from the federal government. Stump House Mountain Bike Park, Phase 3, the design's finished. They should be up there. I know we've got a meeting next Monday, so they'll be up there working, finishing that. They should be done. He's hoping that May with that.
That's exciting. What about the parking lot?
The parking lot, the design is finished. I just honestly haven't had time to advertise that one, so, but all the engineering work's done. I just need to put together the package to advertise that. I've got the list of all the, double check, pretty sure I got the final list of sidewalks and streets for the C funds. I've gotta find some time to put that together and get that advertised. That was one, and some of it was just poor planning on my part, cause I'd anticipated having an engineering tech hired by then.
Yeah.
So some of these projects would've gotten moved farther along.
Well,
But that's kind of where we're at. That's the big projects that we have in queue. I know there's 2 facility projects that the water department, they've contracted out there at their shop to replace some roof in a building out there, and then to move some stuff from the old water plant down to the new water plant for their storage. So those are the big projects we've got going right now.
does it get any easier to find people to do contracted labor like that?
It in Chicopee, I forgot about that. Yeah, we're getting people a little bit more responsive.
There's less demand,
Yeah,
a little bit,
yeah. Now on bigger scale projects, no, because
all the ARPA money.
all the federal money's out there.
Yeah.
So,
Everybody and their brother's got a big project they wanna do.
yeah. But we've started getting a little bit more responsive on smaller stuff. So
And,
Was that gonna include the Catherine Street thing, one way?
that one was advertised and we didn't get any responses on that. I sent that out to several vendors and put it on the website, and we got 0 response on that. Me and Russ has talked, we're looking to maybe try to do some of it in-house, to get it done, but I've kinda backed up just a wee bit on that since CPAT is doing that planning study on the 3 blocks back there and trying to integrate the back street with the
Right.
main street, see how that can tie in. So I may keep that one in a holding pattern until those planners kind of see what, if it makes still, I think it still makes sense to do that, but that way they incorporate it, the overall thing, and we might have renewed interest in it then, so
Your engineering tech position, sounds like it would make your life a lot easier.
it would.
And you've advertised for what, 6 months now, 7 months? Was that the
Yes.
last budget, July when we did that?
Yes.
You haven't really had any interest in that?
None. I've advertised it with Clemson, with Tri-County Tech, and Greenville Tech.
Do you think it'd be possible to get like a contract with somebody, like a firm or somebody to help you with
And
that,
that's,
short term?
that's what we've been doing. We just let GMC,
Instead of
they're
having to
kind
sit
of,
down.
yeah.
It's
but
just
they've been-
expensive for
It's
them to
expensive.
do it.
So it's gonna be cheaper to hire an employee than.
It-
Yeah,
it
that's the
will.
whole thing. Yeah.
You pay an engineer and then their supervisor, we're paying probably $150 to $180 an hour for engineering work. Yeah.
I can work, I'll do that cheaper.
Yeah.
I can supervise well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd take $50 an hour just to tell them what to do. Okay.
And that's one of the thing, you know, we've had some stuff, come up that we just had to let them do. So we
Makes
just,
sense.
yeah.
You gotta get it
Um,
done.
This engineering position would be very helpful in mapping, GPS locating, and probably doing some GIS work in their downtime on all these water meters.
Mhm.
So, just, you know, update our infrastructure role. So it'd be a great position, and that's something we'll just have to talk about once we have the numbers conversation and I present, I take all this back and try to present something as we're, you know, probably increasing for that. So we'll have to figure out.
What happens if you didn't fill the position for a full year, you budgeted for that, you have money sitting there for it
Yeah.
already?
There's money sitting in
So like
there.
a whole year, basically probably, of salary extra.
Yeah.
Okay,
So there should be some
okay.
left there. Yep.
But
There will
from
be.
what you said at the beginning of the meeting, you don't see right now, much of an increase in revenue for this next year.
I haven't fully saw, I've seen some of the returns on our income, not income, but property to ad valorem taxes. It's pretty stout. So we'll have some increase there. But as far as the others, I don't anticipate much of a revenue increase. Unless we do, I'll go ahead and say you know, fully intend, and this will be part of develop opportunities for residential and commercial growth. We're gonna take our building codes back in-house. We'll have to develop a fee schedule, so, hopefully the fees that we collect, the inspection fees, the permit fees, et cetera, that'll help cover the cost of that position. Cause we'll have to have a building official for that. So.
But it helps the city.
It helps the city, and they have a one-stop talk, you know, with planning, with Celia, and then the building official, and the fire marshal, the 3 of them can take and handle a complete project. There's no, going to, the only thing that we won't handle is the sewer, cause Joint Regional still permits the sewer.
Well, nothing against the county, but, you know, there's businesses on Main Street that's folded up and just left because of
I know,
trying to ordeal the,
going back and forth.
yeah.
I have to get all the architectural drawings and this and that.
I mean, it's just, you know, it's
I've heard,
a struggle.
And
I don't
it'll,
want that.
things will be more consistent.
Yeah.
Again, you'll have a one-stop shop, so, yep.
Good deal.
What do we as a whole think of our rec, you know, there was very little discussion on the rec department.
If
We
can
can't
afford it.
add more sports without adding personnel,
Yeah,
I think we need to probably add a couple of part-timers.
at least.
We could
I
get
mean-
to that, it would help tremendously.
Yeah.
Cause part, you know, summertime cutting grass is a major thing,
Well-
lining off fields.
Well, even, you know, I don't know what connections Brandon and John might have with the universities nearby, the local schools,
What was
you know.
Yeah,
The kids taking courses in this system, coming up here and working during the summer. And they actually getting training and paid to do it.
Kinda
I
on,
mean, we can't continue like we're going and add more and more and,
And I know you mentioned the fact that you'd like for John to be able to stay in the office and do more revenue generating some work. I don't know how to say this other than just
John don't
say
wanna
it.
stay in.
I know
John
that.
doesn't wanna do
I know that, but what I'm saying is John can't even come to his committee meetings sometimes because he's running the gym or
Mhm.
he's running a football game.
But there's no effort being made on selling sponsorships, some of the things that could generate revenue. It's,
Who's gonna do it?
Well,
Cause
he is the director.
That's what
so
I'm
there
saying,
is
though.
expectations, so.
I don't know
That's
if we
what
can
I'm- that's-
hire a part-time,
well, that's where my comment of
Person.
office time. That's what it's pertaining to is
Yeah, I agree.
actually doing director work.
I was hoping the young lady that he hired would take on some of that, but so far, I don't think she has.
She has the ability, they're just so busy
Yeah.
with everything, they don't have enough time.
Like building a gym or whatever, gosh, you gotta have space to do that, you gotta have much money, just, the hotels taking, no parking, so it's just a
Well,
mess down there.
it's the same people with the addition of one that was there when my kids were little,
Yep,
Yeah.
still running the same department.
that's true.
And now they cut all the grass.
It's a lot of workload.
So for our fourth one, would it be, could I assume to say that plan and develop expanded recreation programs?
I would love to say that. I don't know how
I
as a
had to
whole
have-
we feel
We've gotta
about
start
that.
planning for it now.
Yeah.
I think that's even in alignment with Grant. I know he's not here anymore, but something about recreation. So if that's
Yeah.
gonna bring us
He's on
common
board with it.
ground with create recreation, I think that
He's on board with that, what's what
he
he said.
would be echoing a lot of things that all of you are saying,
Yeah.
which I feel like is positive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
Okay.
something on the lines with recreation. I know you mentioned about partnerships. I know we need follow-ups, and Julio Hernandez from the president's office, what kind of follow-up do you need to strengthen that? I know, Mayor, you talked to me earlier and you
He
said,
had reached out to us and
We were
something
gonna
that,
meet in December and
that's right, they ended up
and he's
closing and.
supposed to get back with us.
Yeah, we're supposed to connect back up this month, and I've been out, so
Yeah.
we just need to reconnect back up and meet. We were gonna have a face-to-face in December, and then the holidays,
Yeah.
everything got mixed up, so.
okay,
that's
so what
still-
I'll do, because Keith, to your point, our local community colleges are trying to be involved as much as they can, but it's just those type of follow-ups and all that reconnection with the new year.
Yeah.
So what I'll do on my end is, contact him, do a email, and that way we can get that back on the track. Cause Clemson University has interest, I mean, they have the rural health clinic, there's, researchers who have contacted us, where the mayor and I have been in meetings that they wanna do community engagement focused research, through grants, right? It's through them,
Right.
the researcher, but they want to research our area of Walhalla, how to improve, that we have workforce here, we have health, access to health, right? But then there's gaps still that we're facing.
Yeah.
And the mayor knows about that, so on my end, just the connection, strengthening that, so yeah, it's there, but it's just getting back on track on that.
What you have is 5, Brandon, or have you, you said that was 4,
That was number 4. Well, this is what I have so far. Complete established projects and continue, program relationships. Continue strengthen, I may wordplay on that. Develop opportunities for residential and commercial growth. Plan and develop expanded recreation programs, and create competitive, compensation for employees, or employment compensation.
What about economic development also?
I
Or is
think
that combined in?
that would probably go under develop opportunities for residential and commercial growth.
The same thing, even, cause when I think of economic development, I'm thinking more in terms of Main Street and other things too. I don't know if you consider that.
I would consider that into that.
Okay.
Residential and commercial growth.
Okay.
Unless,
Well, that makes sense.
um,
Just an easy way to combine that, and then Infrastructure, right? Say that?
Well, no, we hadn't said that, cause I've got one less, and just looking through here, I think our top items for the morning was customer service, communication, infrastructure, and capital improvement, and I say capital improvement, that means making sure, you know, we have maintained, equipment, et cetera. So, I'm wondering if maybe we could incorporate, improve customer service and communication with a focus on developing recreation. That could combine some citywide elements and then show focus on the recreation component. That way it gives us room for a final one. To talk about maybe capital improvement and infrastructure.
Sure.
That's just throwing that out there to how maybe combine some of them, but still show focus that, yes, we want to improve our customer service, we improve our communication, and respect to a department program, we want to improve recreation. That's a focus. So,
Yeah, I can deal with that.
Makes sense to me. Happy with that.
okay. So that leaves us, still we've got space for one more. Commit, and I'm just throwing this out here, y'all feel free to reword, commit to continued infrastructure and capital improvement. Let's say capital needs improvement instead of capital improvement. Something along those lines. Y'all can, if y'all wanna chew on that for a minute and reword that, whatever. That's just kind of what I've heard from, yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Does that include infrastructure?
Yes,
Okay.
it would be, I forgot what I said, support, continue to support, infrastructure and, capital improvements, capital upgrades. I think that in my mind, in essence, it would cover a lot of the things that y'all talked about, is about, continually improve the infrastructure, upgrade equipment for safety, the pay, the equipment thing, and then even going back further this morning, a lot of it was making sure that they had equipment. So I'm trying to pair everything, you know, that's the intent of this exercise, is just to pair everything that was discussed, you know, down into these 5 goals, or, you know, objectives, goals. And we can, in the budget process, we'll figure out the mechanics of achieving those. And we might have to come back once we establish these, have another meeting and say, all right, this is kind of where we're at. Well, if we need some more specifics, like I would know that develop opportunities for residential and commercial growth. I'm hearing that affordable housing, residential is a big thing for that. So, I mean, that would be a subset of number 3, is that would be a focus for, you know.
And the commercial development, does that also include, like the mayor mentioned about the Main Street, the property?
Yes,
Commercial, okay.
yes, that would include that as well,
Okay.
yeah. And I can make, you know, notes in once these kind of what's the focus of them are. Lot number 4, improved communication and customer service with focus on planning and developing recreation.
I like it.
So looking at those, are there anything that we discussed this morning from each individual departments in exercise number 2 that we're not capturing in this exercise? I kind of, the intent on exercise 3 was just to amalgate everything from 2 and capture it in more broader sentences, and the department, myself and department heads can, you know, we can tweak our budget to make sure it meets the intent of these, you know, we'll get down into the weeds of the accomplishing those.
I think it needs that.
Okay. And some of the other comments are, because I heard it several times, cleaning up around the public workshop. That's really not a cost. It costs some personnel time. So those things will be, you know, general things that are, you know, these are some of the expectations, you know. Let's try to do some of the things that aren't necessarily budget driven, but just the things that y'all would like to see done, I think are okay to say, you know, yeah, this is what we're going to develop our budget off of. However, there's other things that would, that council would like to see as well.
Those kind of
Raising
things,
expectations.
that comes from you.
It does, and that helps me. All right, this is what I've heard it repeatedly,
Yeah.
so it wasn't an off-the-cuff comment, it was repeated that, all right, we need to focus on, in addition to your, you know, these are some other things to focus on, so. All right. I'm gonna insert teamwork, improve communication, teamwork, and customer service across the departments, with a focus on planning or developing expanded recreation. Would that be okay?
Read that one more time.
Improve communication, teamwork, and customer service across all departments with a focus on developing, expanding recreation.
Okay.
Is that too broad? Is that too, kind of lump some stuff together, but
No, I think that sounds, it's not so wordy that you got going on and on and on.
Right.
You know, that's what Jennifer was real good at, putting those things together.
all right, improve communication, teamwork, customer service with a focus on developing / expanding recreational programs. All right.
just so those comments don't get put together and think it's all about recreation.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
They need to know that
Yep.
the other departments too
Yep.
are.
All right, and the next one, I kind of wordsmithed it a little bit. Invest in human capital, create competitive compensation and workforce. All right.
It's gonna be a resolution for us to vote on. What you want us?
Yeah, that would be nice if it was a resolution, or you know, we can just vote on, or I say y'all can just vote on this.
Memorialize that?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Continue to support infrastructure and capital replacement programs. That's complete established projects and continue strengthening community relationships. I changed projects from, or program relationships to community relationships. I don't know if there's a better word for that to capture program and community partners.
I mean, I like them both, they can be interchangeable, but partners, community engagement, all that.
I'm good with that.
Or should I say continue strengthening public-private partnerships?
I guess you can also include like nonprofit in there, cause I know we collaborate with a lot of nonprofits. Think about the Hall Performing Arts Center.
Yeah.
It could be public, private, and nonprofit.
Well, yeah.
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 That's why I said
think it is-
community
it's all
relationships,
inclusive,
but,
yeah.
but if we wanna, you know, say publicly, you know, private, nonprofits would, you know, would be private, so it's,
Catches it all.
That does
Yeah.
kinda catch it all.
the
Yeah.
community does catch it all. But I'm open to
I think that's a good
I
word.
words.
I think it's fine.
It's a good
Yeah.
word.
Complete established projects and continue strengthening community relationships. Should we say partnerships versus relationships?
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually think I do too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll read these over as we've worked on them. Number one, develop opportunities for residential and commercial growth. That would include, the comprehensive planning, focusing on residential, affordable housing, the Main Street program is part of the economic development or other economic development tools. We got the DDC and other things. Number two, improve communication, teamwork, customers and customer service with a focus on developing expanding recreational programs. Number three, invest in human capital, create a competitive compensation, and create competitive employee compensation and workforce. Number four, continue to support infrastructure and capital replacement programs. Number five, complete established projects and continue strengthening community partnerships.
I think those are good.
Yep,
Okay.
I agree.
So, you want them,
So if someone would like to make this into a motion and y'all vote and, vote on it today, and then next time I'll have this, we can either do it again by resolution, or I think voting today is sufficient.
and you'll send us a copy of that, I'm
I'll
sure.
send y'all a copy of everything that we've got today, so.
I'd like to make a motion to accept, as discussed, that Brandon just read off to us.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Good to go.
So what do you
Okay.
need us here for?
All right.
I'm just messing with you.
Is the steakhouse in the city budget for lunch?
It can't, we got money, that's what that emergency fund's for. It's past lunchtime. Well, I appreciate y'all bearing with me and giving, I think this is some good guidance. You know, these goals are, like I said, they're broad, but we've got enough, from exercise 2, we've got enough information. I know what the specifics are, that we'll work to. So I appreciate y'all taking the time to do this. It's extremely helpful for myself and the department, so thank y'all.
I appreciate you putting it together.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It goes a long ways with, especially what Sarai wants, is us to,
Yeah.
work together more, you
Yeah.
know, this.
And I know it takes time out of your Saturday, but doing this, there's just a different air, different attitude at a work session than at a council meeting. So I think these are productive and
I really appreciate it.
give us,
And we got the
Good
media
stuff.
to report everything to the public.
that's right, that's right.
Nobody died.
I guess, I get to be official if somebody will adjourn us.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Question. I sent that email, so before we get a follow-up.
Okay.
Thompson. I didn't know what you requested from Rosa from the taqueria, the Mexican store.
Here's,
Like a support letter or something, you never got
here's
that.
just a little bit of research I've done.